Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. This is Shyam Kagodia. Now, before I start the discussion, if there is no issue with the sound, can you please give me a thumbs up and do let me know that everything is all right and we can start the discussion. Huh, please do let me know. Great. Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's start the discussion. Last week we have what we have done Friday, to be very precise. Last week is nothing but Friday. So on Friday, what we have done, we started with the concept of infrastructure. Right before that, we discussed investment models. Do you remember? We discussed investment models. In investment models, what we have discussed, FDI, right? EFPI, foreign direct investment, foreign portfolio investment. Logic is very simple. Do not complicate everything. FDI, investment in sectors, investment in infrastructure, whereas FPI, investment in stock market, investment in bond market. That's it. Right. Beyond this, please do not complicate it. What are the important differences we have discussed, but do not complicate, sir. What will happen here? What will happen there, etc., etc. Keep it very, very simple. All right. Within FDI, we have discussed concept of the ADR, GDR, IDR. Then we have discussed the concept of FPI. Within FPI, voluntary retention route, right? A fully accessible route, right? And then what is the implication of the government bonds, right? Being included in the bond index, or generally, what is the implication of being included in the bond index, etc. Then we have discussed the concept of round tripping and treaty shopping. DTA, double taxation avoidance agreement, round tripping and treaty shopping, right? All these three concepts we have discussed. Then we discussed special economic zones, correct? Special economic zone. What is a special economic zone? Very simple. It's a region in a country. It's a region which will be identified by the government, notified by the government as a special economic zone. Once a region has been identified and notified by the government as a special economic zone, the laws which are applicable, there will be certain relaxation in terms of application of laws. For example, if you remember the second statement, it said it is a territory within India which is outside the customs territory. What do you mean by that? Anything that you will import into special economic zone, the taxes are not imposed on the imports. That is, import duties are not imposed, but the condition is that you will have to be a net exporter, net foreign exchange earner. You'll have to be a net foreign exchange earner, meaning what? You're importing, dollars will go out. You're exporting, dollars will come in. So the dollars that are going to be brought in by you, dollars you are earning, should be more than dollars you are spending. That's a basic idea of a net foreign exchange earner. Apart from this, for 5 years, 100% tax exemption. For the next 5 years, 50% tax exemption, etc. Right? The SEZs are going to be developed by the private developers. Government is not going to develop them. Private developers are going to develop them. And after that, we have discussed what is the functionality, or let's say what has been the performance of SEZs. More than 400 have been approved. More than 200 have been operational. Investment has increased, right? Let's say exports have increased, etc. So we've discussed all these particular concepts related to SEZs. After that, we have discussed. After that, we have discussed what has been the issues related to SEZs. What has been the issues related to SEZs? Issues are: one, the land has been acquired, right? SEZs are yet to be developed. SEZs are developed, that is, let's say office space has been developed, but companies are not moving into SEZs, etc. The pandemic has addressed, right? Pandemic has addressed. Pandemic has affected the issue, right? The issue of exports from India, and applicable even to SEZ exports. Right. So there are certain issues regarding SEZs. Then we have discussed Baba Kalyani committee report. Recommendations are there. Please have a look at it again. Then we have discussed NIMZ, which is just a model. We are yet to implement NIMZ model. National Investment and Manufacturing Zones as a model was proposed as a part of National Manufacturing Policy 2011. NMP 2011, National Manufacturing Policy 2011. Right, under that we want to promote jobs, creation of jobs, investments, etc., etc. Model is there, but we are yet to implement that particular model. After that, we have discussed the idea of the PPP, public-private partnerships. PPP, public-private partnerships. Okay, what is the model of PPP? Why are we promoting PPP model? Are there any concerns regarding the PPP model? And committee recommendation regarding the PPP model, right? So those are the types of investment models that we have covered. After that, we started with infrastructure. Right? So in the context of infrastructure, we understood the problem, or let's say the concept of the power sector, right? That is generation, then transmission, then distribution, right? Gencos, discoms, etc. What are the concerns related to that? Right? What are the reforms announced by the government? Then we looked at railways. Only two. Let's say railways is divided into two parts. One is a freight segment, and the other one is passenger segment. In India, railways is operated. As an undertaking of the ministry, etc., etc. Then we were supposed to start with the discussion of reforms. If you remember correctly, we were supposed to start with the discussion of reforms. Now, there has been some miscommunication, as a result of which, please understand. Now, I'm going to start. Please understand this. Point number one, most of you might be saying it is titled as a lecture number 23. That some of you are telling me in the comment section, that some of you might have seen. It says in the title lecture number 23. No, it is supposed to be lecture number 22, and we were supposed to start with railway infrastructure, reforms in railway infrastructure. We were supposed to start with that, but some miscommunication has happened. Rather than 22, they have titled it as 23, and they have kept the PPT of planning. So do not worry, we'll discuss whatever PPT is there. We'll discuss. And do not panic. Don't say, sir, then what about railway infrastructure? What about the other types of infrastructure? We will discuss that tomorrow. Please do not panic. I'll not skip the topics for you. I'll cover that only tomorrow, right? Do not panic. Okay. So with that caveat, let me start with the next chapter, planning. And those who are joining now, don't say, sir, you have skipped earlier infrastructure part. We will cover it tomorrow, right? Midway, we can't change the PPT. That's the only reason. We will start it tomorrow. We'll finish it tomorrow. Please do not panic. And those who are wondering, today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow, these are my 3 classes. Total 24. So these are my 3 classes. We are going to cover all the topics which are left out. We are left out with the part of infrastructure. We'll cover it. We are supposed to discuss employment. We'll discuss that also. Today, we will discuss planning. We will discuss IMF, International Monetary Fund. And after all of this, the last topic, which is basically the culmination, right? Culmination of all the topics that we have discussed earlier, is the concept of inclusive growth. So these are the topics which are left out. We are going to cover all of them. Please don't worry about it. Before I start, please do let me know, were the articles that I have given on Friday, were they relevant to your studies? Were they important for UPSC examination? Please do let me know. And let me know, were you able to learn something more than what you could have learned only by reading a book? That is more important for me. For me, what is more important? You should be able to learn more, understand more than what is given in the textbook or any book that you're going to refer to. Right? So that is very important. Keep that in the mind. Okay. Now, with that caveat, let me start the concept of planning. Okay. With that caveat, let me start the concept of planning. What are going to discuss today? What is the meaning of the term economic planning? Then the 5-year plans in India. Very, right. Let's say a lot of factual information will be thrown at you. Please don't panic. A lot of factual information will be thrown. For a very simple reason, we have implemented planning in India for more than 60 years now. For more than 60 years, we have implemented planning. So obviously, a lot of factual information will be there regarding that. But if you ask me, sir, for exam purposes, should I read the complete planning? Many of the books have given 50 pages on planning. Many of the books have given 100 pages on planning. Should I read all the plans from the first 5-year plan to 12th 5-year plan? Then my answer to you, please no. Do not waste your time in that. Why? I'll give you a very simple example. Every 5-year plan will have 500 pages, 800 pages document. Now, if you do the back of envelope calculation, there were 12 5-year plans which were implemented. 12 5-year plans. And if you simply take 500 pages per plan, or even let's say, some of you will say, so no, it will not be 500, it will be very, very less. I'll be very liberal and let's say 50 pages. Now, please tell me 12 into 50, early morning CSAT. Many of you will simply say, sir, what? Early morning you're teaching CSAT instead of economics. So can I simply say 600 pages? Now, my question to all of you is very simple. Will you be able to read all the 600 pages? Retain, that's more important. Retain what you have read in 600 pages? Absolutely no. And please understand, I'm not doubting your capability. Many of you will simply say, how dare you challenge me? So what I'll do is, right, dar ke aage jeet hai. So today I'll download all the 12 5-year plan documents and start reading from page number 1. Don't do it. I'm not challenging you. I don't question your capability, etc. You don't need it. Very simple. You don't need it. And even if you read it, trust me, even if you read it, by the end of today's class, only you'll understand it. Many of the times you will feel this is part of the 4th 5-year plan, but it could be part of 8th 5-year plan. You will take the provisions of 9th 5-year plan, put it in the 2nd 5-year plan. You will take the provisions of 1st 5-year plan, put it somewhere in 12th 5-year plan. Lot of points are there, so you do not have to remember all of them. Point number 2, should you remember all the schemes which have been announced in all 12 5-year plans? That is also a big no as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely a big no as far as I am concerned. But there are certain important schemes. There are certain important schemes which might be asked by UPSC. For example, right, you tell me now, very recently, there was an article, there was a discussion regarding Manrega. Correct? All of you know this? Very recently, there was a discussion regarding Manrega. Correct? Right? Those who are asking, sir, what is Manrega? Manrega is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. I'm saying Guarantee Act. It can be even Guarantee Scheme also, because under the Act we have implemented scheme. Now, suddenly UPSC, can they ask you? Tell me now. Suddenly, can UPSC ask you, Manrega was launched in which 5-year plan? Think of it. Can UPSC test you like this? Right? Very simple statement, by the way. Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or let's say scheme, was launched in the duration of dash 5-year plan. All of you would be reading about Aadhaar. All of you would be reading about Manrega, which of the states have highest utilization of Manrega, etc., etc. But suddenly UPSC will twist it and ask a question on Manrega plus 5-year plan connection. So that is the reason, as far as I am concerned, because every 5-year plan schemes have been implemented. Should you remember all the schemes? My answer is no. It's not required. Right? Don't take it as a challenge. It's not at all required. So my recommendation is, don't read everything that is given in the book for every 5-year plan. I will give you in the classroom itself, I'll give you 3 points or 4 points, maximum 3 to 4 points for every 5-year plan. That would take 3 into, let's say, 12 or 4 into 12, around 40 points. More than sufficient as far as I'm concerned. In fact, more than what is actually required. Right? So that is the point. Please do not read everything regarding planning. Then we'll also discuss Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. Niti Aayog will discuss at the end of the chapter, that is after the planning is over. So with this caveat, let me start with the basic idea. What do you mean by economic planning? What do you understand by the term economic planning? Economic planning means utilizing the resources. The government utilizes the resources that are available, and based on the resources, or let's say based on what they want to achieve, they will allocate these resources. Very simple. All of you okay with the definition? I'll repeat it again. Economic planning means government wants to achieve objectives. What kind of objectives? Reduction of poverty. Let's say reduction of poverty, right? Let's say generation of employment, promotion of industries, promotion of exports, etc. So government wants to achieve the objectives, and to achieve the objectives, how will the government utilize the resources that are available in the economy? This process of allocating resources to achieve objectives is the concept of economic planning. It is the idea of economic planning. Now, whenever you talk about economic planning, whenever you talk about planning per se, there are two very important types. Many types are there, but focus on two more than sufficient. There are two very important types of planning. One is called as right, basically imperative planning. One is called as imperative planning, and the second one is called as indicative planning. One is called as imperative planning, and the second one is called as indicative planning. Now, what is imperative planning and what is the indicative planning? Let's start. In imperative planning, the government will formulate a plan. The government makes a plan, and the government through agencies will implement the plan. All the conditions, all the investments, everything is done by government and the government agencies itself, right? Can I give an example? Can I give an example? In case of socialism, don't you see a type of central command planning? I'll repeat the statement. In case of socialism, can you see the kind of imperative planning, that is central command economy? It is also part of central command economy. What is the basic idea of central command economy? Please go back to the first class and tell me who does control factors of production in socialistic economy. I'm asking a question by the way now. In case of socialism, first class, today is my 22nd class. Who controls the factors of production? Who will formulate plan? Who will implement it? Everything is done by the government only. Everything is done by the government. So can I simply say, in case of imperative planning, it is nothing but a part of central command economy where government will formulate a plan, government will control factors, government will implement the plan. Everything is done by the government itself. That kind of a planning is called as imperative planning. Whereas in case of indicative planning, which is generally the feature of a mixed economy, such as India, what government does is it will formulate a plan. No doubt, it will formulate a plan. Government generally formulates a plan. So government will formulate a plan, but the implementation of the plan is done by using government along with private sector agencies. That is, government plus government agencies are there, plus private sector companies are also involved in implementation of the plan. For example, let's say government of India under the plan wants to achieve an industrial growth rate of 5%. I'll repeat the statement. Under, let's say, a particular plan, government of India wants to achieve an industrial growth rate of 5%. Don't you think in case of India, the industrial growth rate of 5% can be achieved by using government companies as well as private sector companies? If government of India wants to promote exports and achieve certain exports of X rupees, government agencies are there, plus private sector is also involved. If government of India wants to promote education under planning, government, right, through its let's say schools will promote education, private sector will also promote education. So argument is very simple here. In indicative planning, government will formulate the plan, but in the process of implementation, both government plus private sector both are present. Both will be promoting the objectives of the planning as such. That is called as indicative planning. Indicative planning. In case of India, especially from the 8th 5-year plan, we have been promoting indicative planning. Now, this is a basic definition. Government or the central authority would set up targets for the whole economy as well as various sectors. Government of India has done it. In case of India, for example, 12th 5-year plan, we wanted to achieve a GDP growth rate of 8%. For agriculture sector, we set up a target. For industrial growth rate, we set up a target. So for overall growth also, we set a target. For individual sectors also, we set up a target. And to achieve the growth, to achieve the targets, the resources will be allocated accordingly. Okay, resources will be allocated accordingly. The state will formulate physical as well as financial controls to achieve all of these particular targets which have been set up. Many of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by physical and financial control? Can government of India control who will invest in India? Can government of India control what will be imported and exported from India? Can government of India promote investments, prohibit investments? Answer to all of this is yes, by the way. By now, it should be very clear to you. Answer is simply yes. Can government of India prohibit exports from India? Take current affairs examples, you will realize it. Can government of India promote investments in India? Right? Yes, of course, as physical controls as well as financial controls are always there with the government. Using these controls, they will try to promote and achieve objectives of the plan. Right? So these are certain important points regarding the idea of a planning. Now, in case of India, what was the need for planning? Why did we promote the concept of planning in India? First point, India had fallen into low level equilibrium trap. India had fallen into low level equilibrium trap. Now, what is this idea of a low level equilibrium trap? Please understand. The basic idea is that the income of India, the overall per capita income or even the savings in the households were very, very low. Please remember this. The incomes at this point of time were very low. And again, I'm talking about 1940s. Don't say, but sir, I read in the newspaper per capita income of India has doubled, etc., etc. I'm talking about 1940s, not today, 1940s. Right? So in 1940s, a large part of India's population was there in agriculture sector. That's a fact, by the way. Large part of working population in India was there in agriculture sector, more than 70%. And second, because large part of economy or let's say working population was there in agriculture sector, we experienced majority of the contribution which was coming from agriculture sector itself. Is it okay? All of you okay with this? Large part of the working population was there in agriculture sector. Okay, it was present, and it's a fact. Today, if you look at the data, around 50%, right? Somewhere it will be 49%, somewhere it will be 48%, etc. Somewhere around 48 to 49% is present in agriculture sector. So at the time of independence, more than 70%, more than 70%, more than 70% was involved in agriculture sector, and a large contribution to economy used to come from agriculture sector itself. Now you tell me, all of you have gone through, right? Let's say high school. All of you have come through high school only. Point number one. Second one, for many of you, may not be for all of you, but for many of you, I'm pretty sure you have completed modern India. You have completed modern India. Now, please tell me, what was the situation? What was the situation at the time of independence in agriculture sector? That is, let's say, in terms of incomes, were the farmers in India who were cultivators, were the farmers earning very high amount of income? Let me know. Were the farmers earning very high amount of income? Absolutely no. Farmers were earning very, very low income. Why? We had such a type of revenue settlement systems, right? Just to in order to just basically jog your mind. Do you remember a zamindari system, mahalwari system, raitwari system, etc., where majority of the income generated would be taken away by, let's say, intermediaries, and very, very small amount of money was left with farmers. So now look at the situation. Large part of working population is there in agriculture. These people are earning very, very small amount of money. And in terms of industries, can I tell you one more argument, one more let's say, criticism of the British government? All of you heard of this statement? The British government had converted India as a source of raw material and a destination of finished goods. Let me know. They had converted India into the source of cheaper raw materials and the destination for their finished goods. Correct? All of you have come across this argument or criticism against the British government. So the argument was very simple. In terms of industries, we were not very well developed. And in terms of agriculture sector, farmers were earning very, very less amount of income. So can I say overall, can I simply say the incomes of Indian households were very low. Incomes of Indian households were very low. And now let's start the cycle here. If the incomes are very low, point number two, savings will also be very low. Correct? Point number two, savings will also be very low. And if in savings are very low, what will happen to investments? Please tell me, what will happen to investments? Investments will also be lower. If investments are lesser, what about the growth? What about the growth? Growth will also be lesser. If growth is lesser, again it will get connected to the point number 1. It will come and get connected to the point number 1 itself. If GDP is not increasing at a very faster pace, expanding at a very faster pace, it also means no generation of newer jobs. If no generation, or let's say very less generation of new jobs, again incomes will be very lesser, production would be lesser. So now tell me, is it a trap or not? Right? Are you seeing a particular trap which is faced by the Indian economy, where incomes are lesser, production is lesser, investment is lesser, savings are lesser, and will this cycle keep on happening continuously? Of course, yes. The continuous events, or the events will keep on taking place continuously. This is basically the idea of a low level equilibrium trap. And please remember, the name of the economist who proposed this idea of a low level equilibrium trap or low level income trap was proposed by Richard P. Nelson. This was proposed by Richard P. Nelson. Richard P. Nelson proposed the idea of a low level income trap or low level equilibrium trap. So at this point of time, incomes in India were very low, industries were not developed, agriculture sector, right, the earnings were also very, very low. So incomes very low, savings very low, investment very low. That would have a huge impact on employment generation, production, and earnings all over again. Okay, so that is the point number 1. Second one, the resources which are available to us were very scarce, limited amount of resources. Now, Government of India felt that private sector should not be given the primacy. Private sector should not be given the only role to promote growth. It should be given to Government of India. The role of promotion of growth should be given to Government of India. Government should control certain resources. Government should formulate policies, etc. Otherwise, think of it. At the time of independence, population high. In fact, after that also it kept on increasing. Poverty rate higher. If you allow the private sector to operate freely, without any conditions, etc., don't you think that would further lead to income inequality? That would further increase poverty numbers in India, etc. Because private sector is not worried about social welfare. Private sector is not worried about how many jobs they are creating. Private sector is only worried about one and only one thing, that is profitability. So Government of India said, okay, let me control some of the sectors. Let me promote growth. Let me take care of the social welfare also. So social justice, employment generation, reduction in income and wealth inequalities, etc., to protect the national interest in the age of globalization. Right? There was a promotion of international trade. So Government of India wanted to protect the domestic market from the entry of foreign players, foreign companies. How can we do that? Impose controls, impose restrictions. For many decades, foreign investors were not allowed to enter into India. Why? Government of India felt we should protect the domestic market. Because please remember this, there was a term, right? Even today, this keeps on appearing in the newspaper. There's a term called as import substitution. There's a term called as import substitution. Government of India, in the beginning of planning, introduced the concept of import substitution. What is this idea of import substitution? The argument was whatever can be manufactured in India. I repeat, whatever we are going to manufacture in India, we will manufacture rather than importing. For example, if Government of India felt that we were sufficient enough, right? We were sufficient enough to manufacture this marker as well as this marker. Government of India did not allow the imports of the markers to happen into India. Very simple logic. They did not allow imports of these markers to happen into India. Why? The Government of India stated, point number 1, the amount of forex reserves we have are very scarce. Understand the logic behind it. The amount of forex reserves we have are very, very scarce. Very scarce. Scarce means very less. And if you keep on importing into India, don't you think we will run out of the forex reserves? That was one concern. Second concern, our domestic market will not be promoted if I keep on importing it. We are not going to promote domestic market. Domestic industries will not be promoted. We'll keep on importing only. That was second concern. Third concern, whenever you import, you will have to pay in dollars. Point number one, please think of this very carefully. Whenever you import, you'll have to pay in dollars. And how do you earn dollars? Because you can't print dollars. In India, we can't print dollars. We can only earn dollars. We can earn dollars by promoting exports. We can promote exports and bring in dollars. And the policymakers at this point of time were concerned that in this particular area, or let's say in terms of exports, India will not be competitive enough to promote exports to the international market. Right? I hope you understand the argument. The policymakers were concerned that in that duration, right, during this planning phase, policymakers were concerned that our exports will not become competitive. Right? So why should I focus on exports when these are not competitive, which means I'm not going to earn sufficient dollars? I will try to substitute imports by producing in domestic market. Is it okay? All of you are able to understand the argument of policymakers? Our exports, we doubted the competitiveness of our exports and said, if I want to import, I will require dollar. And how can I get a dollar? By exporting. But I'm doubtful about my competitiveness of exports. So what I'll do, I will try to substitute the import. Substitute means rather than importing, I'll produce it in the domestic market so that I will not require the dollar only. These are the reasons why in the beginning phase, especially in the first 6 to 7 5-year plans, we did not focus more on exports. Is it okay? Right? We did not focus more on exports. We were focusing on reducing imports. But later, all of you will agree with me, even today, government is promoting exports. We are following a model called as a export-led growth strategy. Export-led growth. That is, we want to promote more and more exports from India. Why? We know that now exports will contribute to growth in India. Exports will not only bring in dollars, it will generate jobs, it will lead to investment, it will add to manufacturing as well as service sector GDP. We are promoting the concept of export-led growth now. It is part and parcel of the promotion. Is it okay? All of you okay with the concept now? Anybody has a problem? Let me know. To protect the national interest at the time of globalization and to have better cooperation and coordination between the center as well as the states. These are the reasons why Government of India adopted the model of the economic planning. Can we go forward? Okay. Now, way to Planning Commission. PC is Planning Commission. Right? PC is nothing but Planning Commission. Because early morning people, when they look at PC, they will remember a celebrity. They'll feel sir is talking about a celebrity, right? She has already shifted to other country, etc. Absolutely, I'm not talking about a celebrity. I'm talking about Planning Commission. PC is Planning Commission here, by the way. Now, before Planning Commission was established in India, and by the way, Planning Commission was established in 1950. Planning Commission was established in 1950. So before Planning Commission was established in India, what were the other proposals which were given? Other proposals which were actually given. First one, the first proposal was given by Dr. M. Vishwesharaya. The first ever proposal for promotion of planning in India was given by Dr. M. Vishwesharaya. And this proposal was for the period of 10 years. And before I go forward, before I discuss any more, please remember, I'll give you multiple plans. None of these plans have been implemented. I repeat, none of these plans have been implemented. Why? It was pre-independence. Most of them were given pre-independence. And pre-independence, British government, none of these plans were implemented, just proposals, just so that you have sufficient information if at all a MCQ question is asked by UPSC. So the first plan, titled Planned Economy of India, was given by Dr. M. Vishwesharaya. This plan was for a period of 10 years. It was for a period of 10 years. And according to the plan, if government implemented this 10-year plan, having a planning commission, there was a proposal to have a planning commission which would consist of 5 to 7 members. The proposal was to consist or set up a planning commission to have 5 to 7 members. And if the plan was implemented for a duration of 10 years, during the 10 years, national income would almost be doubled. from somewhere around 2,900 crore rupees. I repeat, from somewhere around 2,900 crore rupees. According to the plan, we would double it to more than 5,000 crore rupees in the span of 10 years. But for the implementation, the argument was Government of India should promote more and more investment. Government of India should promote more and more investment. And please understand, when I say Government of India should promote more and more investment, the plan was very clear. Private sector alone cannot satisfy all the requirements of the economy. I'll repeat, private sector alone cannot satisfy all the requirements of the economy. Absolutely no. In fact, the plan proposed that government should take the lead. Government should take the lead. Private sector cannot satisfy for all the requirements. Government should take the lead and increase investments. Increase investments to somewhere around 1,000 crore rupees. Increase investments at that point of time, it was somewhere around 300 crore rupees. So we should increase the investments to 1,000 crore rupees, and in the process, we will also increase production in the economy. Right? Production would increase from somewhere around 4,000 crore rupees to more than 2,000 crore rupees. So argument was very simple. One, the plan was proposed for 10 years. Second, for the implementation of the plan proposed planning commission which would have 5 to 7 members, and the government should be taking the lead, promote more and more investments, and as a result of this, overall production in the economy would be increasing. Overall production in the economy would be increasing. So these are certain important provisions or the plans regarding Dr. M. Vishwesharaya plan. After that, there was a National Planning Committee which was set up under the chairmanship of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru back in the year 1938. Now, please understand the historical context of this. Let me see how many of you are reading and revising, not related to economics. Please tell me who was the president of INC in 1938 and 1939. 2 years. Who was the president of INC in 1938 and 1939? Important, by the way. Again, not related to economics, but for UPSC prelims. Subhash Chandra Bose. S.C. Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose, right? Very important historically. Please remember that. So when Mr. Subhash Chandra Bose was the president of INC, they set up a planning committee. They set up a national planning committee within Indian National Congress, right? And this national planning committee, NPC, was chaired by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Although this planning committee, that is NPC again, although this planning committee met multiple times, came out with 29 reports. I repeat, came out with 29 reports, nothing was implemented. The reason being, please tell me what happened in 1939. Again, historical context. Please tell me what happened in 1939. All of you remember what happened in 1939? Second World War. Correct? Second World War broke out. And during the World War, right, modern Indian history was India at that point of time, even, right, let's say including Indian National Congress, was it focused on having a 5-year plan, having a 10-year plan, having 15-year plan, or was the focus on whether should we support Britishers in the Second World War or we should not support? So argument is simple. Focus got shifted. Focus was completely shifted. Now focus was not on planning. Focus was independence. Should we support? Right? What should be our demands, etc., etc. So simple. Although they came out with 29 volumes of recommendations, none of these were implemented. In fact, the National Planning Committee recommended that Government of India should own certain important industries. And tell me, did you not see this argument being implemented by Government of India under Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948, Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956, where Government of India started owning a lot of these important industries? So although these were not implemented, these provisions have been taken and implemented in different industrial policies as well as 5-year plans. Next one is a Bombay plan. I've written 1943 here. Some books have written it as 1944. Right? Some books have written it as 1945. Don't worry, initiation started in 43. So Bombay plan was not proposed by the government. Please remember this. Bombay plan was not proposed by the government. Bombay plan was proposed by businessmen. 8 businessmen or 8 industrialists came together and they came out with a plan which is famously referred as a Bombay Plan. Now, what are the important provisions of the Bombay Plan? Point number one, Bombay Plan was proposed to be implemented for a duration of 15 years. I repeat, Bombay Plan was supposed to be implemented for a duration of 15 years, not for 10 years, not for 5 years, 15 years. And for 15-year duration, if the provisions were implemented, Bombay Plan promised that, or it stated that the per capita incomes would double in the span of 15 years. So per capita income, which was $22 at the proposal time, would double to more than $45 once the Bombay Plan was implemented. Under the Bombay Plan, the logic was very simple. The plan proposed that government should focus on infrastructure. I repeat, the plan should focus on development of infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure? Railways infrastructure, roadways infrastructure. Promote development of infrastructure. Point number one. And point number two, government should also promote industrialization. Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement. Government should also promote industries. Industrialization should be promoted. For example, it recommended that we should promote, I've written it here, we should promote consumption goods. Consumption goods, production of consumption goods. It also recommended basic industries, development of basic industries. Now, please do let me know, all of you will understand consumption goods. Anybody has a problem with the term consumption goods? Please do let me know. Consumption goods means which are purchased and used by end user. Very simple logic. Which are paid for and used, consumed by end user. Right? These are not used for further production. These are used by the end user. For example, mobile phone that you have purchased. Mobile phone that you have purchased. And because I'm referring to mobile phone, all of you please do let me know. Did you read the article that I had given on Friday regarding the report by ICEA? Let me know. Last week Friday, did you people read the newspaper article regarding the report published by ICEA? Now, please do let me know, and I want your participation in this. When I discussed Make in India, when I discussed Startup India, I told one of the problems regarding these kind of policies, or let's say why these policies are not very successful in India. I said one of the problem is government imposes a lot of tariffs on the imports. Correct? It is there in the slide also. You can check it. One of the reasons why these policies do not become very successful or concern regarding these policies is that government imposes lot of tariffs, I said. And when government imposes lot of tariffs on the imports, automatically manufacturing activity would be affected. Automatically exports would be affected, or export competitiveness would be affected. Investor confidence on the economy would be affected. Now, can you please connect the dots? Let me know. Can you please connect the dots and say, yes, these are the things which are actually happening in Indian economy? And don't you think that is one very important point you'll have to mention in way forward? In, let's say, right, concerns regarding government policies, if at all there's a question on manufacturing activity in India, if at all there's a question on exports from India, if at all there's a question on employment generation in India. So I hope you understand. Please connect the dots. Please connect the dots. If you connect the dots, it's very, very easy. If you do not connect, it is going to be very difficult. For example, let me take a small detour, small deviation here. Anyways, I will have to tell you this later. In today's Hindu newspaper, what are the important articles? Front page, there is an article on labor mobility. Front page at the bottom, there is an article, very nice article on labor mobility. That is, you are a employee who is who is searching for a job, who is a job seeker, and you want to go to Israel now. Please read the document very carefully. There is a very nice article. Read about it. Second article that I want you people to read is regarding Food Corporation of India. Right? Very recently, we celebrated 60 plus years of FCI. There is an article by Mr. Piyush Goyal. Right? There is an article where they have taken the statements of Mr. Piyush Goyal and they have written an article. Again, Hindu newspaper only. Third one, which I'll come back to this now. Third one is the editorial editorial. Editorial in Hindu. The editorial talks about inflation. The editorial talks about inflation. I would strongly recommend read that article. Why? Just give me 1 second. Fourth article, it is regarding front running case. There is a front running case. I'll tell you what is front running. Just give me a minute. There's a front running case which has been charged, alleged on Morgan Stanley company, and Security Exchange Commission (SEC) has imposed and collected certain fines from Morgan Stanley. That's the basic idea. Now, the point I'm trying to make here, when I tell you please connect the dots, let me know. Couple of days ago, not weeks ago, couple of days ago, I had quoted one article in the classroom. I asked you, I pleaded you, please read that article. Do you remember that article? That is again editorial, growth sans demand. This was the title, by the way. I distinctly remember it. Growth sans demand. This was an editorial, not open editorial in Hindu newspaper. I asked people, read it. It's important, read it. And what was the point the article was making? The GDP in case of India is being driven by government expenditure. The government expenditure is driving the GDP growth in India. And the article also raised a concern, because historically we are experiencing growth because of consumer expenditure, customers expenditure, household expenditure. This kind of the GDP which is being driven by the government expenditure is not sustainable. Now, what is the inflation rate? Please tell me. All of you read newspapers? Friday, Saturday newspaper, Sunday newspaper. What is the inflation rate now for Indian economy, retail inflation? Can I say more than 5%? You don't have to by heart it. More than 5%. And it has increased compared to the last reference period. Very simple question to all of you. If inflation is more than 5%, will it have an impact on consumption expenditure of households? Connect the dots now. Very simple question to all of you. If inflation keeps on increasing, will it not have an impact on consumption expenditure of the households? Will it not limit the demand for goods and services? Of course, yes. Can you connect both of these articles and now realize a bigger thing as a concern for Indian economy? If inflation remains elevated, already the concern is that the household demand for goods and services has come lower. Correct or not? If inflation remains higher, there is already an existing concern. That is, the expenditure from the households is lower. Demand for goods and services is already lower. If inflation remains elevated, that will further suppress demand for the households. And if it goes further down, then the pressure on government of India to spend more money, will be very high. And if pressure on government of India to spend money will be higher, what do you think will happen to fiscal deficit of government of India? Let me know. What do you think will happen to fiscal deficit of government of India? Don't you think fiscal deficit of government of India would be higher? Because now they will have to borrow more money, spend more money. And is it okay if I say there is already a concern? There is already a concern. If you have read last week's newspaper, there is already a concern that government of India is not in a position to meet fiscal deficit target. So now see how we are connecting the dots. Please look at the connection of dots now. Right? We started with the GDP, then we connected that with inflation. We have connected all of this with the budgeting concept of government of India. So now don't you think if you keep on connecting the dots, this is my recommendation to all of you. Don't you think by connecting the dots like this, it will become very easy for you to understand, right? As well as remember the concepts for a very longer duration. Okay. Anyways, so labor, there's an article on labor, read it, FCI, editorial on inflation, as well as front running. Now, before I go forward, what is front running? Very simple idea. There's a term called as insider trading, right? There's a term called as insider trading. What do you mean by insider trading? If I am a person who is in a position in a company, let's say there's a company which is a listed company, I am one of the, right, let's say personnel in the company at a very high level management. I know certain important details. I know how much company is going to make very soon at the end of the financial year. I know how much dividend we are going to announce. I know if we are going to acquire one more company. Sensitive information, I've got access. Now, right, imagine you are related to me. I will simply ask you to purchase the shares of my company. Today, the shares of price is X rupees. After 1 week, we will announce higher profits earned by the company. Automatically, the market price of the share will increase. Now, you purchase it at X. After 1 week, it is, right, let's say twice the X rupee. You will sell it in the market and you will make huge amount of profit. Now, this is called as front running. Front running is a type of insider trading. Front running is nothing but type of insider trading. Insider trading means you are using certain sensitive information which is not available to public. I repeat, you are using certain sensitive information which is not available to public to conduct trades in the market, make profits on it. That is a concept of insider trading. So I hope you understand these concepts. I would strongly recommend read these 4 articles. Now, let's come back to the discussion here. Let's come back to the discussion. So argument of Bombay plan was very simple. Implement the plan for 15 years. Promote infrastructure development such as roadways, railways, right? Promote a certain providing, let's say, growth to the industries, consumption goods, right? Basic industries, etc. And if you implement all of these in the span of 15 years, the per capita income would double from $22 to more than $45. So that was recommended by Bombay plan, again not implemented. Now, before I go forward, what is basic industries? What is basic industries? Understand this. Basic industries are those industries, the output of which will be used for production in other industries. I'll repeat the statement. Basic industries are those industries, the output of which will be used in other industries. For example, let me know cotton. Think of this and let me know cotton. Please tell me whatever is produced by a company in terms of, let's say, cotton, don't you think that will be used by other companies to manufacture something? Is the logic okay? Whatever is produced by this company, let's say it is a part of cotton industry, steel industry, aluminum industry, that will be used by other companies to manufacture something, right? So that is basically the concept: steel, cotton, right, food grains, etc. So these are called as basic industries. So basic industries were to be promoted, and under many 5-year plans, I'll give you example. Third 5-year plan, we promoted basic industries. Second 5-year plan, we promoted basic industries. So multiple 5-year plans have actually promoted basic industries in India. Okay. So next point, 5-year plans. Next idea is 5-year plans now. So we proposed multiple plans before independence. Multiple plans have been proposed, right? There was a plan called as People's Plan. People's Plan was proposed by Mr. M.N. Roy. Right, there was a plan, Sarvodaya plan, which was proposed by Jay Prakash Narayan. All these plans have been proposed. None of them have been implemented. There was, in fact, one more plan. Just remember the name, more than sufficient. Why? Slightly tricky. There's a plan proposed which was called as Gandhian plan. Now think of it. Suddenly tomorrow, if UPSC will ask you, Gandhian plan was proposed by Dash. 99% of you, until unless you have read it, 99% of you would simply feel Gandhian plan will be proposed by Mr. Gandhi. Am I correct? And most of you will simply say Gandhian plan automatically will be proposed by Gandhiji. Answer is no. It was proposed by Sriman Narayan Agarwal, S.N. Agarwal. Sriman Narayan Agarwal, S.N. Agarwal, right? So please be very careful. Sometimes these kind of questions are very easy but very tricky. Gandhian plan was proposed by S.N. Agarwal, Sriman Narayan Agarwal. Okay, so please be very careful. These kind of questions have been asked earlier, slightly tricky. They can be asked again. Now come to 5-year plan. As already mentioned, I said Planning Commission, PC, Planning Commission was established in 1950. But apart from Planning Commission, there was one more authority which was set up, the National Development Council, which was established in 1952. Now I'll go back to previous slide, don't worry. What is the basic idea of a planning commission and NDC? Planning commission and NDC, both of them were set up through executive resolution of the government. Please remember this. These were set up through executive authority, executive resolution of the government. That is, government through its executive authority set up two authorities, two institutions. One is called as a planning commission, second one is NDC. So both are not under the Constitution of India. That should be very clear. Both have not been established as a part of Constitution. If UPSC will say Planning Commission is a constitutional body, answer is wrong. NDC, National Development Council, is a constitutional authority. Answer is wrong. Both are not in the Constitution. Both have been set up through executive authority, executive resolution of the government. Point number 2. What was the role of a Planning Commission? What was the role of NDC? Planning Commission and NDC both had the same chairperson, both had the same chairman, that is the Prime Minister of India. In Planning Commission, apart from the Prime Minister who was the chairman, there was a deputy chairman. Okay, there was a deputy chairman who was part of Planning Commission. So deputy chairman was there, finance minister, other ministers of the central government, as well as certain experts from various sectors. Experts from various sectors were part of the Planning Commission. On the other hand, the National Development Council, NDC, please make an observation. Can I simply say Planning Commission did not have any representation of the states? Please look at the Planning Commission and do let me know correct or wrong. Any confusion? Planning Commission did not have any representation of the states. In fact, this was the criticism. This was also the criticism of Planning Commission. That is, you're making plans. You're making plans and you're asking the states to implement the plans. Don't you think the requirement of the states from one state to another state will be different? Certain schemes are there. You want all the states to implement it. Why? Requirements from one state to another state will differ. That was basically the argument. Right? I'll come back to this again later when I discuss criticism. Right? Criticism regarding Planning Commission. So Planning Commission would prepare a 5-year plan. Planning Commission would prepare a 5-year plan, hand it over to National Development Council. And what is the importance of National Development Council? In Planning Commission, there was no representation of the states. Hence, Government of India in 1952 decided that we should have one more authority, National Development Council, where there will be representation of the states as well as the union territories. Apart from the Prime Minister as well as various union government ministers, there will also be representation of state chief ministers, administrators of the union territories, etc. So the Planning Commission would prepare a 5-year plan, hand it over to NDC. NDC would approve it. Then the plan used to go to cabinet. Once the cabinet approves it, it will go to parliament. Then there will be a discussion in parliament. And once the discussion is done in parliament, the 5-year plans used to be implemented. The 5-year plans, it's a document, right? It's a document which will be discussed in parliament and now it would be implemented. This was basically the process that was followed in order to prepare a 5-year plan and implement the 5-year plan. Now, have a look at the composition. As far as I am concerned, both of them are outdated. As far as I am concerned, both are outdated. Why? Government of India has abolished the Planning Commission. This should be very clear to you. Government of India from 2015 has abolished Planning Commission. There is no Planning Commission today. It's an outdated concept. But anyways, for UPSC exam, they might ask you all of this. That's the reason I'm discussing. So the Planning Commission had certain long-term goals. The Planning Commission had certain long-term goals, 4 very important of them: growth, equity, modernization, and self-reliance. Growth, equity, modernization, and self-reliance. And I'll make it easier for you to remember this. All of you remember what is this? Let me know. The name is visible very clearly in the camera also. All of you remember what is this? Now imagine the same thing in the UPSC exam. Growth, equity, modernization, and self-reliance. Look at this. Growth, equity, modernization, and self-reliance. These were the 4 very important long-term goals of the Planning Commission. Long-term goals of the Planning Commission. Now what is this long-term goal here? Point number 1. Government of India felt that the GDP growth rate, the expansion of GDP should take place in India. We should focus on increasing the GDP. Why? The argument of government, at least in the initial 2 5-year plans, in the beginning of the 5-year planning was, we should always focus on growth. All these other terminologies we have adopted a bit later, but at least in the first 2 5-year plans, government of India focused only on growth. They said primary target was growth. Why? They believed in a concept called as trickle down. They believed in a concept called as a trickle down. What is this idea of a trickle down? Very simple logic. Trickle down means the benefits that are provided by the government, I repeat, the benefits that are provided by the government to rich in the economy, these benefits will flow down, will reach other people such as poor people in the economy. I'll repeat the statement, then I'll explain it. Listen to me very carefully. The trickle down theory says that, or trickle down concept says that, the government, when they provide benefits to rich in the economy, right, to industries in the economy, these benefits will automatically flow down, will reach other sections of the society, such as poor sections of the society. Many of you ask me, how is that possible? How is that going to happen? The argument of trickle down is, let's say I'm a very rich businessman. Okay, hypothetically, I'm a very, very rich businessman. Otherwise, right, let me make you happy. Imagine all of you are billionaires. And at least be happy with that. All of you imagine you are billionaires. You want to go outside, you will go in helicopter. You want to travel to office, you will take your Rolls Royce with security Z's plus security, etc., etc. So you're a very, very rich businessman. Now let's say government will reduce income taxes applicable to you. Is it okay? Government will reduce income taxes applicable to you. Now, very simple question to all of you. If income tax rate which is applicable to you, or income tax itself goes down very drastically, don't you think you will have more money to invest in the economy? Very simple. If income tax is reduced to a very great extent, you will have more money to invest in the economy. So you will invest more. And when you invest, what will happen to production? What will happen to employment? So when you will invest, production will increase, employment will increase. And when employment increases, does it not mean poor sections of the society are benefited out of it? Poor sections of the society are also benefited. How? They are getting jobs. They are getting wages. They are getting salaries. Unemployment rate will go down, right? And employment rate will increase. So now tell me, is the logic making sense to you? It's a theory. In reality, it doesn't work out. It's a theory. That is, you provide benefits to rich. You provide benefits to rich, and the benefits will also flow down because of this to other sections of the society. Hence, it is called as a trickle down. Hence, it is called as a trickle down. So, argument was government will focus, primary focus will be growth. And government felt that if you target growth, automatically poor people, poverty will come down. Answer is no. It will not happen in reality. In fact, it has been tried by many countries. India has tried it, and very recently, government of UK, one of the earlier prime ministers of government of UK also tried the same model. That is, the government couple of years ago in United Kingdom, Britain to be very precise, the prime minister proposed that we will cut income taxes to rich people. Mainly will cut income taxes to rich people, those who are earning above certain threshold level. More benefits of tax reduction will go to them. And the argument was, if we are going to provide benefit to them, automatically their investments in the economy will increase. And when their investments will increase, jobs are getting created. Employment is going to increase. Earnings are going to increase. That will create production, create a demand in the market, etc. But in reality, that does not happen. For example, I'll take the current affairs example in India. Do you remember earlier while discussing, I told you, government of India back in 2019 reduced corporate taxes. Correct? Do you remember this? Earlier, I told you this. We have discussed what was the reason why Government of India did it, what are the concerns, etc., etc. So in 2019, Government of India reduced corporate taxes. What was the objective of government? If I reduce corporate taxes, companies will invest more because they will have more profits now. They will invest more. When they will invest more, they will create more jobs, more demand, more supply. That will automatically lead to a virtuous cycle of growth in the economy. That will promote a virtuous cycle of growth in the economy. But in fact, very recently, Government of India itself in Parliament has accepted we have not got these benefits. Even RBI also has told we have not been able to get these benefits in terms of increased investments, in terms of increased employment, etc. Why? This is exactly what has happened according to RBI. Listen to me very carefully. This is exactly what has happened. Corporate taxes have been reduced. Point number one, corporate taxes, right, will reduce, which means imagine earlier a tax rate of 30%, I would pay 30 rupees to government and I would have 70 rupee profit with me after giving taxes. Now government will reduce it to 22%. I will give 22 rupees to the government and I will have 78 rupees profits with me. So automatically I've earned more profit rather than investing. What I have done is I have taken these additional profits, I have repaid my debt. Think of it. Rather than investing, right, what I've done, I've taken these profits and I've started repaying my obligations. I've repaid my liabilities. So all of you able to understand why the policy on the paper looks very good, right? Reduce corporate taxes, people, that is companies, will have more profits now. They will invest back in the economy. That will promote growth. But rather than promoting growth, rather than investing, what if they take this additional profit and they'll start repaying their existing debt? Do you think repayment of existing debt will promote jobs in India? Think logically. Repayment of existing debt, do you think it will promote employment generation? Will it promote more production in the economy? Right? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. In fact, I'll give you one more example. During pandemic, again, not related to this, but similar concept. During pandemic, many countries such as USA provided cash benefits to a lot of people. During pandemic, many countries around the world provided lot of cash benefits to people. Government of India, rather than mainly providing, I'll repeat the statement. Government of India, rather than mainly providing cash benefits, they provided cash benefits. Right? Money was given to certain population, but only that was not the focus. Government also provided many other benefits apart from only giving cash benefits to poor people. Why? The observation has been that when you provide money to people, the expectation, I'll start with the expectation first. When you provide money to the people, let's say during pandemic, during recession, the expectation is people will get money, and when they will have money, they will spend money. Correct? They will spend money on purchasing goods and services. And when they will spend money to purchase goods and services, the demand for goods and services will recover or revive. When the demand for goods and services will be revived, demand increases, what do you think will happen to production? Production will also start increasing because the demand is higher. And when production starts to increase, what will happen to employment? Employment will also start increasing. And when employment increases, income of the people will start increasing and their expenditure will increase. This is expectation. This is what is expected. But you know what happened in reality in USA? This was mentioned even by Economic Survey. What happened in reality in USA, which was mentioned by Economic Survey as an argument why Government of India did not target only this initiative, was that people were given money by the government. That is, cash assistance was provided. Rather than taking this money, going to the market and purchasing goods and services, many people started saving more money in physical form. Physical savings means you will take the money and you will keep it with yourself. Why? You tell me, during pandemic, will you not feel more safe if you have more cash with yourself? Very simple question to all of you. There is pandemic, uncertainty, volatility, people are losing job, you are not guaranteed about your salary, etc. If government will come to you and say, take this 2000 rupees, what will you do? You'll simply say, I don't know what is going to happen after 1 month. I will not spend it today, I'll save it. So what people started doing, they started saving money rather than spending money. And second, what other people who spent did was, rather than spending on goods and services, they restarted paying their loan. They started, right, repayment of their loan, existing liabilities. Now please think of that also. Loans which are supposed to be recollected are recollected by the bank. That's it. But don't you think if you repay the existing loan, your expenditure on goods and services would be affected? Government expected that you will be spending on goods and services, but you are spending on repayment of loan. So objective was something else. What actually happened was something else. So I hope you understand. I hope you understand. Whatever are the objectives of government, it's not that in the same way people will behave. It's not that in the same way companies will behave. So all of you okay? When I say government initially, especially in the first 5 year plans, had this idea of trickle down, wanted to achieve trickle down, but we realized it is not happening. That's the reason, right? From the second 5 year plan, third 5 year plan, government changed the policy altogether. So first one was growth. Second one is equity, growth and equity. Please do let me know. Even today, can you see regional imbalances in India? Question number one. Can you see regional inequalities? Can you see wealth inequality? Can you see income inequality? Can you see inequality between incomes earned by men and women in India? Answer is yes, by the way. Right? Do not keep on thinking, sir, is there income inequality in India? Answer is yes, my dear. Answer is yes. In fact, the day after tomorrow, I'll show you a report. I'll show you a report. You'll be surprised to see how much rich people are earning, how much poor people are earning, how much men are earning in India, how much women are earning. There's a huge gap. There's a huge gap in all of them. So regional disparities are there, right? That after that there is income inequality, etc. So under equity, government of India said, we will achieve growth. Correct. We will promote growth. But just by promoting growth, inequalities will not be addressed. What we will do is, we will also try to promote equity. For example, we'll try to bridge inequalities which are existing between men and women. We'll try to bridge it. We'll try to reduce inequalities of income. We'll try to bridge means reduce and eliminate. We'll try to bridge regional disparities. That was basically concept of equity. So growth, equity. Third one is modernization. Modernization simply refers to a policy where you'll start using technology. You'll promote technology. You'll promote adoption of technology. Why? With adoption of better technology, you'll also be able to increase productivity and overall production. You'll also be able to promote productivity as well as production. In fact, the 5 year plan document also says modernization doesn't always necessarily mean only adoption of technologies. Right? You should not be just adopting technologies. The document also says it also represents the movement in the society. That is, as a society, we should also adopt new thinking. We should start treating, right, women better by promoting, empowering them. We should promote more and more participation of women in contribution to GDP, etc. So modernization talks about technology as well as mindset of the society. Mindset of the society. Okay. Next, finally, self-reliance. Atmanirbharata. Self-reliance, Atmanirbharata. So the Planning Commission also wanted to promote self-reliance, right? Atmanirbharata. Reason was very simple. At the time of independence and even after, right, independence, for many 5 year plans, we were dependent on food grain imports. We were dependent on foreign assistance. That is, we used to borrow from many countries. We used to borrow from many global agencies such as World Bank, IMF, etc. Right? So have a look at this. You are dependent on import of food grains. You are dependent on foreign assistance in order to promote growth and development. You are dependent on even import of raw material. You are dependent on import of capital goods, etc. So when your dependency increases, when your dependency is very high, don't you think there's a threat to your sovereignty? Yes or no? Does it make sense to you or not? When your dependency is so high, is there a threat to your sovereignty or not? Even if this is difficult to understand, let's say there is a war between two countries. One country is overly dependent on food grain imports from another country. I'm simply talking about India, Pakistan, and USA. India, Pakistan, and USA. So at that point of time, India was heavily dependent on assistance. India was heavily dependent on import of raw material. India was heavily dependent on food grain import, especially from, let's say, countries such as USA. So when you start a war with a country such as Pakistan, in fact, we fought wars with Pakistan. So don't you think there will be pressure exerted? There will be certain pressure exerted by a country which is providing assistance to you. That is exactly what has happened in case of India. Exactly what has happened in case of India. Right? When India fought wars with other nations like this, there was undue pressure imposed by Indian government, on Indian government, not by Indian government, on Indian government to stop the wars. And that is the precise reason. And in fact, it went to an extent where the foreign countries, whom we thought we were right very good allies with them, we thought they were very friendly with us. During these wars, they stopped giving assistance to us. They made it very difficult to get assistance. That is the reason we decided, okay, we need to promote Atmanirbharta. We need to promote self-reliance. And that's the reason you will see for multiple 5-year plans. In multiple 5-year plans, government promoted self-reliance. Government argued for self-reliance. So all of you okay with all these four very important goals of a planning commission: growth, equity, modernization, and self-reliance. These are the four very important goals. Now next, what are the 5-year plans? These are the 12 5-year plans. And these are the 12 5-year plans. Don't panic. I'll tell you a trick how to remember this. Sir, should I remember all the 12 5-year plans? Answer is yes. Please do. Please do. This is my recommendation to you. Please do it. Why? I told you suddenly UPSC might ask you, right, in which 5-year plan the scheme was implemented. For example, Manrega. For example, Manrega. I'm pretty sure all of you by now would have typed in Google or said, hey Google, right, tell me in which year Manrega was implemented. Either one of the two. And some of you are still waiting, right? He will only tell, why should I do any work? He is faculty, he should do all the work. Some of you are waiting for that. Manrega basically is associated with the year 2006. Correct? Let me know if I'm wrong. Manrega is associated with the year 2006. Now, suddenly UPSC can ask you, Manrega was implemented in which of the following 5-year plan? You have by-hearted from the list that it is 2006. Now, you'll have to connect to 2006 is part of which 5-year plan. And you'll be, right, and now you'll be knowing it is part of 10th 5-year plan. Okay, it is part of 10th 5-year plan. All of you okay with this? Manrega is a part of 10th 5-year plan. Anybody has a doubt regarding this? Right, part of 10th 5-year plan. Right, so understand this. Initially, it was introduced, etc., etc. I'm sorry. Initially, the bill was introduced. Right, then the act was made, then implemented. Please understand this. Then implemented. Implementation. Many of you will simply say, sir, it is 11th 5-year plan, etc. Right. So I hope you understand. I'm talking about different things here. Introduction of the bill, then passage of the bill, then implementation of the scheme. If the question is implementation of the scheme, definitely yes, it will become part of 11th 5-year plan. If it is basically implementation of the scheme, right? So introduced back in the year 2005, etc., like this, then the implementation happens. So I'll repeat it, right? Again, I'll repeat it. Please be very careful. These kind of questions can be asked by UPSC. These kind of questions can be asked by UPSC. Okay, done. Can we go forward? Now, how do you remember all these plans? How do you remember all of these plans? Please look at the classification I've done. This is not a standard classification. Just to make it easier for you to remember, I'll tell you a trick. Point number one, I've divided them into three phases. I've divided them into three phases, right? What are these three phases? One, basically, first phase will have 3 5-year plans. Second phase will have 4 5-year plans. And the third phase will have 5 5-year plans. Is it easy to remember? Totally 12 5-year plans. First phase 3, second phase 4, and the third phase will be 5. 3, 4, 5. Now next point, sir, how do I remember 3? How do I remember 4? How do I remember 5? Very simple. Start from 1956. The first plan was implemented in start from 1951. First plan was implemented in 1951. So 51 plus 5 years. It's a 5-year plan. 51 plus 5 years. So 51 to 56. Then start second also continuously, 56 to 61. And third also continuously, 61 to 66. Now see after the third 5-year plan. See after the third 5-year plan. Can I simply say there's a gap? There is a gap. There's a gap between third 5-year plan and fourth 5-year plan. Please do let me know. There is a gap between third 5-year plan and a fourth 5-year plan. All of you can see this. Anybody is saying no, sir, there is no gap continuously? That also has been implemented. Reason is in 1966, right after the end of third 5-year plan, we realized 5-year plans are not working. There was a lot of crisis in Indian economy. Rupee was devalued because of the pressure of many global agencies. Rupee was devalued in 1960s. We were fighting wars. We fought wars with countries in 1960s. There was a drought. There was a famine in India. That is the precise reason government of India said, okay, I will not implement. I will not implement 5-year plans now. I will implement annual plans. All of you okay with this? I will implement annual plans. What do you mean by annual plans? We will plan only for 1 year. That's it. We will plan it only for 1 year, not 5 years, only for 1 year. So we implemented annual plans, and this process is also very famously referred to as plan holiday. This is very famously referred to as plan holiday. What do you mean by plan holiday? 5-year plans were not there. Plan holiday simply means 5-year plans were not there. We had annual plans. Now start in the fourth 5-year plan, 69. 69 to 74, continuous. 74 to 79. And suddenly now you'll see 80 to 85. I hope you understand, right? The sixth 5-year plan. Fourth one is 69 to 74. Fifth one is 74 to 79. Suddenly sixth one will start in 80. Why, sir? It was very easy for me to remember continuously. Why there's a gap like this? Reason is simple. 1970, 1980. Please tell me, politically, what has happened? Do you remember emergency? Correct? Do you remember concept of emergency? And after emergency, there were elections. Mrs. Indira Gandhi lost elections. A new government was formed. So argument is that. So please look at it. 74 to 79. Fifth 5-year plan was supposed to be implemented from 74 to 79. Elections were conducted. A new government was formed. Janata Party formed the government. And the Janata Party government was of the viewpoint that the earlier plans of government of India have led to inequalities in India. The earlier plans of government of India have actually led to higher inequalities in India. We should not be following that model. That is the precise reason they discontinued. I repeat, they discontinued fifth 5-year plan in 78 and implemented another plan from 78 to 83. All of you okay with this? They discontinued the fifth 5-year plan and they implemented sixth 5-year plan starting from 78 to 83. This was called as a rolling plan. What do you mean by rolling plan? Please remember this very carefully. Rolling plan simply means the plan will be continuously changed. The plan will continuously be changed according to the experience of the policymakers. So what do you mean by that? The 5-year plan will be divided into, right, let's say 5 annual plans. Understand this carefully. 78 to 83, there will be one plan for 78, 79, one plan for 79 and 80. Now, understand this carefully. When 78, 79 plan is implemented based on their experience, based on the experience, the planning commission will change the plan. Right? Immediately, there will be changes included in the plan. And because continuously you're changing the plan, it was called as rolling plan. Rolling means continuously moving. It was called as a rolling plan. But again, right, politics, let's say, look at the political history of India. The Janta government lost majority. A new government was formed. Indira Gandhi again became the prime minister. And when Indira Gandhi became the prime minister, she discontinued the existing rolling plan, that is a sixth five-year plan, again re-implemented a new plan, implemented a new sixth five-year plan, which was supposed to be implemented from 80 to 85. All of you okay with this? Sixth five-year plan 80 to 85 and seventh five-year plan 85 to 90. Now again see there is a gap. Again there is a gap. Right? There are gap of 2 years. Eighth five-year plan will start from 92. Sir, why? Do you remember 1991? Very simple question to all of you. Please do let me know. Do you remember 1991? What happened in 1991? Can I say there was crisis in Indian economy? And there was a crisis in Indian economy, and government of India, to overcome the crisis of a higher fiscal deficit, right, higher external flow, BOP crisis, etc., announced LPG reforms, new economic policy of 1991. That is the precise reason you will not see 5-year plan here. Again, there was a plan holiday. Again, there was a plan holiday. Plan holiday, that is 2 annual plans were implemented. From 90 to 92, 2 annual plans were implemented. And back in 1992, again, we implemented 5-year plans. So, 8th 5-year plan, 92 to 97. 9th 5-year plan, 97 to 02. 10th 5-year plan, right, 02 to 07. 11th 5-year plan, 07 to 12. And 12th 5-year plan, 2012 to 2017. But midway in the 12th 5-year plan, midway 2015, Government of India abolished Planning Commission. Midway in 2012 to 2017, 2015, Government of India abolished Planning Commission. And because government abolished Planning Commission, even the 12th 5-year plan was not completely implemented. And after the 12th 5-year plan, Government of India said, we will not have the concept of 5-year plans. Why? This is an outdated concept, right? The current government is of the opinion that the 5-year plans is very old concept. It doesn't, this idea of a 5-year plan is not required for Indian economy right now. That is the reason they've abolished Planning Commission. They've discontinued 5-year plans. And instead of having a Planning Commission, today we have one more authority, Niti Aayog, which was set up in 2015, operating even today, National Institution for Transforming India. So this is basically the evolution. I've not yet discussed points of individual 5-year plans, which I'll do now. This is basically the evolution of 5-year planning in India. So all of you will be able to remember which 5-year plan is associated with which year, etc. Please do let me know. All of you able to remember. Right? First 3 plans without any break, continuously like this. After that, take a break of 3 years. Right, then have a 4th 5-year plan, 5th 5-year plan, and again there's a gap of 1 year between 5th and 6th because 6th 5-year plan we have implemented by 2 governments, rolling plan by the Janata Party government, that is when the Prime Minister was Mr. Morarji Desai. Again, 6th 5-year plan was cut short by new government, and they implemented one more 6th 5-year plan which started from 80 to 85. 85 to 90, 7th 5-year plan. Again, take an annual plan, take a plan holiday, then next 5 5-year plans continuously implemented. 92 to 2017, although 12th 5-year plan was cut short midway because of the abolition of Planning Commission. Now, next, 5-year plans, what was the actual target set up by the government and did they achieve these targets? Now, many of you are asking me, sir, should we remember the table? Answer is no. Do not remember the table. But remember certain important points in the table. For example, I would strongly recommend you remember first 5-year plan, what was the target, what was achieved. Because naturally it is the first 5-year plan. So anything that is first is important. So 2.1%, 3.6%. We were very successful in the first 5-year plan. Very, very successful. And as a consequence of that, what happened, you'll understand in some time. So 2.1% was the target. We were able to achieve 3.6% GDP growth rate. Second 5-year plan is important. You'll understand in some time. Remember that also. Not very successful, moderately successful. Many experts argue it was a failure, but again, Government of India's document says it was moderately successful. Stick to that. Apart from this, I would simply recommend remember the 7th 5-year plan. Remember the 7th 5-year plan. Important. Why? Please have a look at the number here. For the first time ever, we were able to hit 6% GDP growth rate. In a 5-year plan, 6% is a sentimental number. That is generally we want to achieve 6%, 7%, etc. like this. So for the first time in a 5-year plan, hit a target, hit the growth rate of 6%. That's the reason this year or this 7th 5-year plan is also important. And by the way, is it okay if I say 7th 5-year plan is nothing but duration 1985 to 90? You'll have to start recollecting now. Some of you will say, sir, 7th 5-year plan, I'll start from first. I'll start from first to 51 to 56, 56 to 61, like this. My recommendation, don't. My recommendation, please don't. Please remember the benchmarks. 92, all of you will remember 1992. Yes? Any difficulty? All of you will remember 1992. And why? Sir, LPG reforms. 1991, after that, LPG reforms. So the moment you say 7th 5-year plan, 6th 5-year plan like this, automatically you should associate 1992 with 8th FIP. Start like this. 4th 5-year plan, 1969. Right, so 4th, 1969. 8th, right, let's say 1992. And first, very easy, 1951. That's not difficult. So now, if I say 6th 5-year plan, we'll be able to get the year very quickly. If I say 10th 5-year plan, will you be able to get the duration of the 10th 5-year plan very quickly? So try to make these bookmarks like this. These are nothing but bookmarks. Try to make bookmarks so that you'll be able to recollect them very, very easily. Now, why 7th 5-year plan is important? I say, for the first time, we were able to achieve a 6% GDP growth rate, but more importantly, in financial year 89, the agriculture sector for the first time, we were able to hit a double-digit growth rate. I'll repeat the statement. In agriculture sector, for the first time ever, we were able to achieve a double-digit growth rate. That is, agriculture sector achieved 10.4%. In financial year 89, we were able to grow agriculture sector by 10.4. In fact, the exact number is 10.37%. But my recommendation, try to remember these kind of important events. Right? 11th 5-year plan is important. Why? 12th 5-year plan, we have abolished in between. Before that, 11th 5-year plan. And 11th 5-year plan, we introduced the concept of inclusive growth. So, although there are 12 5-year plans, the target as well as what we have achieved, I don't want you to remember all these 24 numbers because it is very difficult. Rather than that, can you remember only the first, second, 7th and 11th? Right? So my recommendation is this. If you want to remember the whole table, please go ahead. Absolutely no problem with that. Okay, so these are certain things regarding concept of planning, introduction, right, etc. Now let me dive into 5-year plans. Let me start the discussion regarding 5-year plans. Anybody has doubts regarding what I've discussed so far? Please do let me know. Right? Anybody has got any kind of a doubt regarding what I've discussed so far? And many of you would be thinking, so much of factual information, then hold on to your seats. In the next 1 hour, right? Let's say including the break, by the way, I'll give you a break, don't worry. In the next 1 hour 20 minutes, the amount of factual information that you will be receiving will be very, very high. right? So be ready for that. Don't panic. Don't panic. I'm going to give you 3 to 4 points, important ones in all the 5-year plans. Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Everybody is okay with whatever I've discussed so far in the classroom? Anybody has got any kind of a doubt? Sir, what about inclusive growth? My dear, don't worry. The last concept I'll discuss is inclusive growth only. Not today, day after tomorrow. Right? I'll discuss inclusive growth. Last day, I'll discuss inclusive growth. We'll discuss IMF, inclusive growth, and some part of employment on Wednesday. Don't worry, I'll discuss that. Okay, any other questions? Any other doubts? Any other questions? Any other confusions in whatever I've discussed so far? Done. Let's go forward then. First 5-year plan. First 5-year plan. 51 to 56. What is the importance of first 5-year plan? The first 5-year plan focused on food security. That is basically agriculture production. Inflation rate was very high. Food prices were very high. There was a scarcity regarding food grains in India. So government of India in 1951, when the first plan was proposed, the focus was promotion of agriculture sector. And historically, it makes perfect sense also. Historically, it makes perfect sense. Before 1951, that is the first 5-year plan, all of you know there was a partition, correct? Not immediately before independence, right? Or during independence, there was a partition like this. And when the partition took place, two things happened. Understand this. Majority of the population of undivided India, I repeat, majority of the population of undivided India remained in India. And second point, certain very important agriculture regions went into Pakistan. Two important things, right? I'll repeat it again. Any problem, any confusion, or it makes perfect sense, do let me know. Why did we focus on agriculture sector? Majority of the population of undivided India remained in India, part of India now. Second, certain important agriculture regions of undivided India went into Pakistan now. So don't you think now we need to promote agriculture sector so that raw materials for production will increase, availability of it will increase, and second, because the population is very high, we need to promote availability of food grains in the market. So that is a precise reason why agriculture sector was the focus, price controlling was the focus in the first 5-year plan. Imports of food grains were very, very high. We used to import a lot of food grains, right? Until 4th 5-year plan, 5th 5-year plan, we have kept on importing food grains. But during this period, what has happened was government of India realized that because we are dependent on some other countries, they can enforce their interest on us. They can try to push us into certain policy making. And that is a precise reason during 1960s, government of India promoted green revolution. And government of India started promoting higher production, higher productivity in the agriculture sector. Now, don't you think precisely because of these kind of policies, various governments, again, I cannot credit only one government for this, various governments over a period of time, because of these kind of policies, can I say India, which was import dependent, is one of the very major agriculture exporting country in the international market. Correct? All of you will agree with my statement? Because of these kind of policies of government of India, India, which was an import dependent country, today is a major exporting country for agriculture commodities. Right? We are very, very important in terms of agriculture commodities in the international market now. We export a lot of these commodities to other countries now. From a situation of deficit, we are experiencing a surplus now. From a situation of deficit, we are experiencing a surplus. That is the outcome of the various policies of the government. So rise in food grain production, yes, we were able to increase agriculture sector output. We were able to achieve more than what was targeted in the GDP growth rate. The target was 2.1%. We were able to achieve 3.6%. Right. So major irrigation projects were also announced, such as Bhakra Nangal, Damodaran, etc. Many of these irrigation projects were announced in the first 5-year plan. Now, second 5-year plan. Right. Or before going to second 5-year plan, one small concept here. Very important concept. Right. But understand related to planning only. It is said that in the first 5-year plan, second 5-year plan, government followed a model of Harrod-Domer concept. Harrod-Domer model was followed by Government of India. Now, what is this idea of a Harrod-Domer model? Please understand. Harrod and Domer is the name of two economists. There were two experts. One is a Harrod and the second one Domer. They have proposed theories. They have proposed equations. We have taken their observations and we have merged into only one theory, which is called as a Harrod-Domer model. Now, what is this Harrod-Domer model? Very simple logic, right? Follow the discussion very carefully. Harrod-Domer model says that if a country wants to achieve a higher growth, the savings in the country should increase and the capital output ratio should decrease. I'll repeat the statement. The Harrod-Domer model states that if a country wants to achieve a higher growth, then the savings in the economy in that country should increase and the capital output ratio should decrease. In simple terms, I will start using indicators, alphabets now. G is equal to S upon R. G is equal to S upon R. This is Harrod-Domer model. G is equal to S upon R. What is G? It is GDP, that is growth. What is S? It is a savings. And what is R? Capital output ratio. Now, please do let me know. Can I simply say straightforward? If savings will increase, it will contribute to higher GDP of a country. Think of it and do let me know. If savings will increase, can I say that will contribute to growth in the economy? Some of you are saying, no, my dear, we have been discussing this concept for so many days. And before this only, I believe around 45 minutes ago, I've discussed this. Savings increases, investments will increase. Correct or not? If savings will increase, we also expect investments to increase. If investment will increase, production will increase. And if production increases, employment will increase. One. And second, GDP will also increase. If employment increases, incomes will increase. And if incomes will increase, savings will increase. All of you okay with this cycle? Right? So if savings are increasing, again, when I say savings, please understand, some of you are saying, but sir, it can be like this, it can be like this. We are assuming financial savings. Here, right? So when savings will increase, automatically we are expecting the cycle to take place. And surprisingly, some of you are saying, discuss this again. This is confusing. My dear, we have been discussing this right from the third class, I believe. Right from the third class, we are discussing this. Virtuous cycle, vicious cycle. And this is my 22nd class. Why there's a difficulty in this? Am I not repeating this multiple times, or you are not repeating in form of revision? One of us is not doing the job correctly. Very simple. One of us is not doing the job correctly. If you say, sir, I am doing, you are teaching wrong, then I am making a mistake. Right? So please revise, my dear. Please revise. If savings will increase, we expect investment also to increase. If investment will increase, production will increase, GDP will increase, employment will increase, again income will increase, savings will also increase. It's a very simple cycle. So now do let me know, is there a direct relation between G and S? All of you okay? There is a direct relation between G and S. Now what is this R? That is capital output ratio. R represents capital output ratio. Capital output ratio simply means how much money, how much capital you will have to invest to get 1 unit of output. I repeat, how much capital you will have to invest to get 1 unit of output. That is, let's say hypothetically, you will invest a capital of 100 rupees, and because of this 100 rupee, you will be able to produce 10 units. Can I say capital output ratio is 10 rupee per unit? Please think of it, right? If you're going to invest in capital of 100 rupee and you'll produce 10 goods, can I simply say capital output ratio is a 10 rupee per unit? Anybody has difficulty? Now let me ask you a simple question. If you are the government, if you are a manufacturer, would you prefer a higher capital output ratio or a lower capital output ratio? Please think of it. I'll repeat the question again. If you are the government, if you are a manufacturer, would you prefer a higher capital output ratio or a lower capital output ratio? All of you should say, sir, I would prefer lower capital output ratio. Which means, take the same example. If there are two manufacturers, one manufacturer has a core. They will use a short form of this core, C-O-R, core. If one manufacturer has a core of 4 and another manufacturer has a core of 10, which means if I'm spending 100 rupee capital in both of these manufacturing units, I repeat, if I spend 100 rupee capital in both of these manufacturing unit, from the first manufacturing unit, production will be 25 units. In the second manufacturing unit, production will be 10 units. So if a capital output ratio is lowered, it is dragged down. So don't you think automatically production in the economy would increase? If production in the economy increases, please do let me know. Does it not mean growth will also increase? Does it not mean GDP will increase? Answer is yes. So all of you okay with this argument? All of you okay with this argument? G is equal to S upon R. Increase savings, reduce, right, the capital output ratio. And that is basically Harrod-Domer model. This is a Harrod-Domer model. It is said that Government of India adopted, right, this argument of Harrod-Domer model in the initial phases of planning. And apart from capital output ratio, please understand there is one more term, ICAR. There's one more term called as ICAR, incremental capital output ratio. I've written the expansion of ICAR here. Please have a look at it. Incremental capital output ratio. Now, what do you mean by incremental capital output ratio? Let me start with a very simple example. I want you people to participate. I want you to participate because with participation, you'll understand in a much better way. Okay, let's start now. Imagine 1950 to 1990. Okay, I'll take simple numbers so that you understand it. Between 1950 to 1990, the total amount of investment, total capital investment, when I say total amount of investment, total capital investment is, let's say, 200 crore rupees. 200 crore rupees. And total output is, let's say, 20 crore units. Total output is 20 crore units. Now, simple question, what is the capital output ratio in this example? Let's start. What is the capital output ratio in this example? All of you, it's a very simple calculation. Don't use calculator for this also. Right? Don't say, just give me 10 seconds, sir. I will open my mobile, type 200 divided by 20 and tell you what is the answer. All of you will agree with me? 10 rupees. Very simple number. All of you agree with it? It is nothing but 10 rupees. Now, very simple question. Next question. Very simple question to you now. Using this data, can you please tell me what was the efficiency of the capital that you invested in 1989 and 90? Let me know. Every year you have invested certain amount of capital. So my question is, using this data, you know how much is the total investment, you know what is the total output, and you calculated capital output ratio of 10 rupee per unit. So now my question is, can you tell me, using this data, can you tell me what is the efficiency of the capital that you have invested in 1989 and 90? Let me know. Please participate. Can you tell me what is the efficiency? Answer is no. Answer is absolutely no. And if you're still confused, let me give you a similar example. Right? Let's say, all of you remember your college, right? College, you used to write exams for physics, chemistry, mathematics, and biology like this. So if you remember that, Let's say your average is 75%. Your average is 75%. Now my question is, using this average, can you tell me what is the exact marks you have scored in mathematics? Let me see. How efficient you are in, let's say, in chemistry? How efficient you are in, let's say, one more subject that you have appeared for in your board exams? Answer is no. What is your efficiency in a subject? In one subject, you cannot come to know using this number. In the same way, here, the total capital output ratio, it represents how much money you're spending to get 1 unit of output. That cannot tell you how efficient the investment was for a particular year. That cannot tell you how efficient your investment is for specific duration, 1 year, 6 months, let's say 2 years. That cannot tell you. Why? Reason is simple. Remember this statement. Capital output ratio will always consider historical investments. Capital output ratio will always include historical investment. Historical investment means in the past, how much is my total investment? Between 1950 to 1990, all the investments are clubbed together. For 1 year, right, specifically, that data will not tell you. That is the reason we have one more indicator called as incremental capital output ratio. Incremental capital output ratio. What is incremental capital output ratio? Let's say you're a manufacturer. Please think of this very carefully. Slightly technical, but once you get the concept, very, very easy. You're a manufacturer. You started manufacturing in 18. You started manufacturing in 2018. And till now, that is 2024, you have made certain capital investment. You have invested in capital and you're getting certain output. Now, incremental capital output ratio simply means to increase the output by 1 unit. I repeat, to increase the output by 1 unit, how much additional capital you will have to invest now. Is it okay? I'll repeat the statement. Listen to me very carefully. Imagine you're a manufacturer. Between 2018 to 2024, you've already invested money. You already spent money on capital, you are getting certain output. Now, if you want to increase this output by 1 additional unit, you want to produce 1 more unit. So, in order to produce 1 additional unit, how much additional capital that you will have to invest, that is called as incremental capital output ratio. All of you okay with the term ICAR? Please do let me know. All of you are okay with the term ICAR. What is the benefit of using ICAR compared to COR simply? COR will consider historical investments, whereas ICAR will consider investments for very, very specific duration. You can use ICAR to calculate what is the efficiency of your investment only in this year. You can use it to calculate efficiency of investment only for 1 year like this, right? But whereas a capital output ratio, you will always use it to measure efficiency of total investments, all the investments you have done. But that doesn't tell you how efficient was your investment in this year, right? You can only calculate efficiency of investment, right, for 1 year, 6 months, 2 years like this using incremental capital output ratio. All of you okay? Can I go forward? And moreover, is it also okay if I say you would prefer a lower ICAR? Think of it and do let me know. You should prefer a lower ICAR, not a higher ICAR. You should prefer a lower incremental capital output ratio, which again means you should be spending less capital now to produce 1 unit of output. But in case of India, please understand, over a period of time, because of inability of let's say getting machinery into India, because of various fluctuations in the international market, etc., ICAR rather than decreasing has been increasing. ICAR rather than decreasing has been increasing, which means you are spending more money to generate same output. Is it okay? All of you are okay with this? ICAR should be decreasing, COR should be decreasing, But in case of India, very recently, because of various external factors as well as internal factors, ICAR rather than decreasing has been increasing, which is a cause of concern. Which is a cause of concern. Okay. Now let me go to the next one. Second 5-year plan. Concept of second 5-year plan. What are the important points in the second 5-year plan? It is also referred to as Mahalanobis plan. PC Mahalanobis plan. Okay, Mahalanobis plan. Right? Either they will call this as Mahalanobis plan, or else there is one more name for this: heavy industrialization plan. Heavy industrialization plan. And why is this called as a heavy industrialization plan? Simple. First plan we implemented and we were successful. We targeted 2.1%. We achieved 3.6%. Government was very optimistic. Government felt very optimistic about Indian economy. So what they did was, rather than targeting agriculture sector now, they targeted heavy industries and basic industries. They targeted heavy industries as well as basic industries. Argument was very simple. We should invest a lot of money in industrialization. Agriculture sector, yes, we will promote it, but central focus now will not be agriculture, it will rather be industries. Right? That is the reason it is called as a heavy industrialization policy, right? Or it is also referred as a Mahalanobis strategy. Why? The person who prepared the second 5-year plan, the driving force behind this is a very well-known statistician of India, PC Mahalanobis. PC Mahalanobis. And what is the argument here? We will invest, we'll set up heavy industries, we'll set up basic industries, we'll set up consumer goods industries so that our import dependence will increase. Does it make sense? At least on paper, it did not work out. I'll tell you why. But at least on paper, does it make sense? We are going to set up heavy industries, basic industries. We are going to produce consumer goods so that import dependence will come down. We'll promote the idea of self-reliance, Atmanirbharta. Right? So idea of import substitution, idea of industrial policy resolution of 1956. Please do let me know. All of these are making sense to you now? All of these are making sense? Right? Why PC Mahalanobis strategy is connected to industrial policy of 1956 and import substitution, right? Atmanirbharta, etc. These should make perfect sense to you, at least some of them. Right? So understand the logic here. Argument was reduce import dependence. But you tell me, if you want to increase production, if you want to increase, right, let's say industrialization, you should have very high savings in the economy. All of you agree? You should have very high savings in the economy. At this point of time, government was dependent on international assistance. We were borrowing from the international market. So savings in the domestic market are lesser. You are borrowing and you want to invest, and industrial policy 1956 said most of these industries will come under government control now. So now you will have to invest more money. So tell me, rather than reducing import dependence on borrowings, will it not increase our borrowings? Will it not increase import dependence? Think logically. Will it not increase import dependence? Our import dependence actually increased. You want to produce consumer goods, but for that you require capital goods. We did not have a very good manufacturing base of capital goods in India. We ended up importing capital goods into India. So overall, what was the outcome? What was the outcome? On paper, the theory looked very nice. We'll promote basic industries. We'll promote capital goods manufacturing. We'll promote consumer goods manufacturing so that import dependence will come down. But because of all of these limitations, our import dependence, imports into India actually increased because of this plan. Our import dependence actually increased because of the Mahalanobis strategy. So second 5-year plan was focused on heavy industries and consumer goods as well as basic industries. We wanted to increase investment. We wanted to create a lot of job opportunities in India, right? As a result of which GDP will increase, right, etc. And in the second 5-year plan, 3 steel plants, one at Durgapur, second one at Rourkela, and third one at Bhilai were actually proposed in the second 5-year plan itself. So all of you okay with this second 5-year plan? Now, please understand, was it successful? Not greatly. In fact, many of the experts argue that it was not successful because it was ill conceived. It was not properly formulated. Why? Please understand. There is one criticism against the second five-year plan, right, which was given by two experts, right, Brahmananda and Vakil. Brahmananda and Vakil, right? These were two experts at this particular point of time who criticized the second five-year plan. They in fact stated that rather than promoting capital goods, understand this carefully, rather than promoting capital goods, what we should have done is we should have promoted wage goods. I'll repeat the statement. Rather than promoting production of capital goods, first we should have promoted wage goods production in India. Now, many of you will simply ask me, sir, what do you mean by wage goods? According to their definition, wage goods are those goods, consumption of whose will increase with rising wages. I'll repeat the statement, just like normal goods, but more limited now. I'll repeat the statement. Wage goods are those goods, consumption of which will increase with rising wages. Can I give you two examples? Best example, food grains, as well as clothing. Please do let me know. Food grains and clothing. If a person's wages will increase, right, the amount of wages that the person is earning will increase, don't you think the demand for food grains as well as clothing automatically will rise up? Anybody has a difficulty in this? Please do let me know. Anybody is finding it difficult? Wage good model was proposed by Brahmananda and Vakil. This is very famously referred to as Brahman and Vakil strategy, where they argued that rather than promoting capital goods manufacturing, we should focus on production of wage goods first. Why? Their argument was people, that is workers, will consume the wage goods, their productivity will increase. And when their productivity increases, you can harness this higher productivity in producing other goods. But imagine a situation where, right, you do not have sufficient production capacity in the market. Right, food grain production is very, very less. And at that point of time, you want the labor to work and produce capital goods. The person doesn't have sufficient food grains, they will consume lesser, production contribution will also be very, very less, their productivity will be very less. So this was basically the argument against the concept of industrialization in the second five-year plan. They proposed that we should focus on agriculture sector, we should focus on wage goods. And that is the reason, have a look at this, in the third five-year plan, government realized, okay, in the third five-year plan, government realized that we should focus again on the agriculture sector. And because of this realization, again, we brought emphasis back on agriculture sector. We started promoting self-sufficiency in agriculture sector. Right, production should increase so that whatever production is, whatever demand is there in the domestic market, will be able to satisfy the demand, etc. We also started promoting basic industries, because the argument was, if production of basic industries improves, other industries will easily get their raw materials and production automatically will increase. But third five-year plan did not work out, and there was an issue regarding the events that are happening, and that is the reason third five-year plan did not yield expected results. What were the issues? In many of these years during the third five-year plan, there were droughts in India. There were droughts experienced in many of these years which were covered under the third five-year plan. Not only this, in the third five-year plan, we fought one war with China, and second war, we also had one more war with Pakistan. So because of wars, because of drought situation, etc., agriculture sector, resource allocation, etc., all of them were destabilized. And that is the precise reason after third five-year plan, we took a plan holiday. In fact, Indian rupee was devalued because of the pressure. We were import dependent on food grains. Many countries, right, started imposing pressure on government of India to stop the war that we are fighting with many countries. Right, so that is the reason after the third five-year plan, we took a holiday of 3 years. We had annual plans from 66 to 69. All of you okay with the third five-year plan? All of you okay with the third 5-year plan? Sir, who is Vakil? My dear, there are two experts. One is Mr. CN Vakil, right? One is Mr. CN Vakil, and second one is PR Brahmananda. Two experts, right? Remember the names, more than sufficient. CN Vakil and PR Brahmananda, right? So both of them criticized the Mahalanobis strategy and stated that no, we should not focus on heavy industrialization. We should focus on production of agriculture sector. Even though we had high fiscal deficit and import of capital goods, we had a good amount of cheap labor. So the second 5-year plan did not achieve success because of agri production reduced. My dear, I'm repeating it. Listen to me very carefully. We wanted to produce capital goods, but that industry, right, the industry which will produce capital goods was not very well developed in India. We imported machineries. We want to invest. We borrowed money. We were dependent on assistance. Agriculture sector was not the focus. We continued to import food grains. Right. So whatever we wanted to achieve, we wanted to reduce import dependence. In fact, we increased import dependence. Okay. Can we go forward? Anybody has got any kind of doubt? Sir, break. Okay. Okay, let's take a break then. Time is 8:07. I'll restart at 8:22. But before I take a break, please do let me know. Anybody is having any kind of a doubt? Let me know. Anybody is having any kind of a doubt? Sir, you told about Manrega. My dear, Manrega as an act was introduced in 2005, 2006 as an act. But it was later notified. Later notified, I believe in 2005 and 6, it was introduced in the form of Bill and Act. It was actually notified to be applicable for whole of India back in the year 2008. Right? That's a reason based on the question. Based on the question. Because if question is when was the act passed, Manrega Act passed, that's a different 5-year plan. Right? If question is when it was notified for whole of India, that's a different question altogether. Okay. Sir, wage good, can you explain in short? I'll repeat it again. When the proposal was put forward, their argument was we should produce the goods where the consumption of this will increase with a rise in wages. If people will earn more wages, they will directly purchase and consume more of these goods, which they call it as wage goods, which they refer to it as wage goods. And again, 1940s, 1950s, you're talking. Don't talk 2024, 1960s, 1950s. So at that point of time, according to their analysis, the wage goods, the best example is food grain, right? Wage goods, best example is clothing. So their argument was increase production of wage goods first, ensure sufficient wage goods are available. If sufficient food grains are available at affordable prices, people will consume it, and when they will consume it, they will contribute more to the production in the economy. Later you can focus on capital goods. That is basically the model. Okay. Harrod Domer model, G is equal to S upon R. If a country wants to achieve a higher growth, savings should increase, capital output ratio should decrease. That's basically the argument. Okay, done. So let's take a break then. We will 8:10. Time is 8:10 now. I'll restart at 8:25. I'll restart at 8:25. Take a 15-minute break. Okay, welcome back. Am I audible? Please reply to my question now. Am I audible? So that I can start. Okay, done. Thanks a lot. Let's continue. So, fourth 5 year plan. At first, second, and third we have discussed. First, second, and third we have discussed. Fourth 5 year plan. 1969 to 74. Government of India realized that it's not possible for India to be dependent on imports now. Right? We need to focus on our sovereignty. We are dependent on food grain imports, and when we are fighting wars with other countries, these countries, our trading partners, or let's say the exporting countries, will try to influence our policies, etc. That's the reason. Fourth 5 year plan, we wanted to promote growth in the economy as well as achievement of self-reliance. The objective was will promote growth as well as achievement of self-reliance. Apart from this, fourth 5 year plan also had certain provisions of financial sector, such as nationalization of banking sector. Do you remember this? First round of nationalization was done in 1969, although it is 1970 to be precise. Anyways, 1969 and 70. So nationalization in the banking sector was done in the 5 year plan. Government also started promoting green revolution during this planning, etc. So the aim was to promote self-reliance, promotion of growth, and reduce import dependence, aimed at improving the standards of the people, right? Welfare programs, etc. Plan recommended regional as well as local level planning. And so we also promoted, there was a provision to promote planning at a local level as well as a regional level. So these are important points in the fourth 5 year plan. Simple, try to remember 3 to 4 points. Promote growth, right? Growth with stability, promote self-reliance. Right? This plan is also known for one more very important point. Remember family planning. I'll tell you the connection. I'll tell you the connection to current affairs. Please do let me know. All of you know that India is the most populated country in the world now. Correct? India is the most populated country in the world. And suddenly, right, because of most, or let's say highest populated country in the world, because of that, or let's say delimitation exercises which are being discussed now, suddenly there could be a question on the concept of family planning. As an idea, as a concept of family planning, it was introduced in the fourth 5 year plan. Right? It was introduced by Government of India in the fourth 5 year plan itself. So family planning, nationalization of banking sector, promotion of green revolution, promotion of self-reliance, promotion of growth with stability. These were the very important provisions of fourth 5 year plan. Done. Fifth 5 year plan, 74 to 79. Fifth 5 year plan, 74 to 79. The fifth 5 year plan is known for 20-point program. Please remember this. 20-point program. Fifth 5 year plan is known for 20-point program. Now, what is this 20-point program? In the fifth 5 year plan, Government of India proposed certain important areas where schemes would be implemented. For example, development of slums, promotion of women empowerment, right? Promotion of education sector, promotion of right, a safe drinking water facility. So there were 20 areas. Right? There were 20 areas which were covered. Hence, this is called as a 20-point program. The fifth plan is associated 20-point program. Point number one. Second one, the central theme or one of the very important focus areas was eradication of poverty. There was in fact a slogan that was introduced by the government at this point of time: Garibi Hatao. Garibi Hatao, poverty eradication, poverty elevation, or Garibi Hatao. So point number one, 20-point program. Second one, Garibi Hatao, that is elevation from poverty. That was a central focus area. Third one, multiple schemes were introduced. In order to achieve this, multiple schemes were introduced by the government at this point of time. For example, please remember this name of the scheme: IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. IRDP stands for Integrated Rural Development Program. Integrated Rural Development Program. Now, do not start reading what were the provisions of IRDP, right? In how many states we implemented this, how much money was spent, where was the pilot project launched, etc. Do not focus on all of this. Why? Very, very old concept. Was launched in 1970s. We are talking about 2024. So almost outdated now. But just remember, it was introduced in fifth 5 year plan. I'm saying IIDP was introduced in fifth five-year plan. Some of you, when you're reading the books, or let's say when you're reading magazine, etc., suddenly they will say IIDP was part of sixth five-year plan. Now you will be confused. You will say that, but in the classroom, in the PPT, it is written fifth, but in the book they are saying sixth, etc. Reason is very simple. Right? Reason is very simple. For example, before the break, I told you one point, Manrega. I said Manrega as a concept was introduced in right the 10th five-year plan. It was notified, but it was notified and implemented across India in the 11th five-year plan. In the same way, is it possible? Please think of it and do let me know, participate. Is it possible that a scheme has been implemented as a pilot project in some of the districts in one plan? In the next plan, it will be implemented across India? Possible or not possible? Please do let me know. Right. So that is the reason some of the books they will say IIDP was implemented in sixth, and some books will say IIDP was implemented in fifth. It was introduced in fifth, but all India expansion was done in the sixth five-year plan. So integrated rural development also IIDP program was implemented in the fifth. And apart from this, also remember self-reliance, right? Self-sustenance or self-reliance, poverty alleviation, self-reliance in agriculture production, etc. were also the focus of fifth five-year plan. And apart from this, right, the fifth five-year plan is also known for one more important point. The government, the existing party or the party at this point of time lost majority, and a new government was formed. New government discontinued fifth five-year plan, and in place of fifth five-year plan, they introduced the sixth five-year plan, which was called as a rolling plan. Even this rolling plan, which was supposed to be implemented from 78 to 83, was not implemented fully. Midway, it was discontinued, and a sixth five-year plan again by the new government was implemented from 80 to 85. It was implemented from 80 to 85. What are the important points in the sixth five-year plan? Now there was a development focus, or there was a focus on promotion of social welfare. There's a focus on the development of infrastructure. That is point number one. Point number two, the sixth five-year plan also focused on poverty alleviation. Many of the schemes were continued. Many of the schemes were again introduced, etc. Apart from the IIDP, one scheme you already know. Apart from IIDP, there was one more scheme by the name of National Rural Employment Program, Minimum Needs Program. Right, so NREP as well as a MNP programs were also implemented. Funds were allocated. Please remember this very carefully. For the first time, the funds were allocated by the government in order to reduce regional disparities. Some of the regions are not very well developed. Some of the other regions are very well developed. Now, Government of India in the five-year plan started allocating funds in order to ensure that the backward regions of India will also be promoted. Growth will also be promoted in these particular backward regions. Apart from this, as usual, agriculture sector, industries were promoted in the sixth five-year plan. But please remember one more point here. Sixth five-year plan is known for one more very important point. The point is, the sixth plan was the first plan. It was the first plan which focused on gender issues. It focused on gender issues, right? And it also focused on women empowerment. It also focused on women empowerment, right? Women employment, etc. So it was the first five-year plan which also focused on gender, right? Issues, gender-based issues, as well as women empowerment. So these are certain important points regarding sixth five-year plan. Seventh five-year plan, 85 to 90. Seventh five-year plan, 85 to 90. Point number one, seventh five-year plan is known for two important factual informations. First one is financial year 89. Agriculture sector registered a double-digit growth rate for the first time ever of 10.4%. And second, the seventh five-year plan is also known to be the first five-year plan where we were able to achieve 6% GDP growth rate. Now, apart from this, what are the important provisions? What are the important points in the seventh five-year plan? Same argument, self-reliance, promotion of a growth, right, modernization, etc. We also started promoting the focus on work, focus on food grain production, as well as increasing productivity in various sectors. We focused on infrastructure development, which was already introduced in the sixth five-year plan. We continued that. We also promoted small-scale industries, food processing industries, and other programs such as Jawahar Rozgar Yojana, JRY, Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was also introduced. So we already have IRDP, we have MNP, we have NREP, now JRY, Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was also introduced in the 7th 5-year plan. Okay, right? So these are certain important provisions, or let's say important points regarding 7th 5-year plan. Many of you are saying, so should we remember all the points which are written in the PPT? My recommendation, you don't have to remember generic points. Generic points. For example, think of it. Can I say self-reliance? You will see in multiple plans till 8th 5-year plan. Very simple question to all of you. Self-reliance, growth, etc. Growth you will see in all the 5-year plans. But self-reliance you will see in multiple 5-year plans till 8th 5-year plan. Because many of you will say, sir, why till 8th 5-year plan? What happened in the 8th 5-year plan? My dear, look at the duration, you will understand. Please look at the time period from where we started implementing 8th 5-year plan. Please tell me, when you implement LPG reforms, when you implement liberalization, privatization, as well as globalization, can self-reliance be one of your themes, central focus areas of a 5-year plan? Think of it. Does it make sense to you? When we are promoting globalization, that is imports, exports, etc., etc., don't you think idea of a self-reliance will take a backseat? Other things such as a promotion of exports, promotion of imports, right? Contribution of exports to GDP growth rate, etc. Those will become focus areas then, not the idea of a self-reliance. And so that's the reason. Just think logically, right? You don't have to by heart everything. Think logically for many of these answers, questions, you will get the answers. So 8th 5-year plan, what is the importance of this? LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And moreover, please remember this also. Can I say, because of right, a more focus to private sector, now contribution of the private sector in terms of investment in the economy will start increasing. Think of it logically and let me know the answer. Because of these kind of reforms, contribution of private sector in the form of investment to the economy will start increasing. Government investment will come down, and that is a fact. Please remember this. That's a fact, by the way. Why? To begin with, in the 5-year plans, majority of the contribution of investment came through government. Government owned enterprises. Why? Look at the argument also. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948. What did the government do? Government took over majority of the industries under its control. And when government has majority of the industries under its control, for example, IPR 1956, 17 industries were under control of government of India. So does it not logically make sense to you to say that majority of the investment came through the government as well as government owned companies in the earlier 5 years? On the other side, when you start promoting liberalization, privatization, globalization, FDI reforms, etc., etc., now majority of, or the large chunk of investment will start coming from private sector. That is exactly what you'll see. Perfectly logical. It makes perfect economic sense as well. So LPG reforms were implemented. We wanted to achieve a faster growth rate. We targeted, we were able to achieve it. Faster growth in manufacturing sector as well as agriculture sector. We started promoting exports as well as imports now. And because earlier, if you remember, we followed import substitution policy. We will not be able to make competitive exports, hence try to reduce imports. Now we change the policy. We said, no, let's focus on export-led growth. Let's promote more and more exports so that it will contribute to growth in India, apart from bringing in dollars into India. So higher growth rates in imports as well as exports, improvement in trade as well as current account deficit, because 1991 the imports were very, very high. The current account deficit was very, very high. We were about to exhaust our forex reserves. Now there was a slight improvement in all of them. And as usual, we were able to bring down even the fiscal deficit also in the control. All of you okay with these points? All of you okay with these points? Now let me ask you a statement. A statement I'll give you. Tell me whether the statement is correct or wrong. Even the export-led growth strategy, I repeat, even the export-led growth strategy will not be able to address income inequality in India. True or wrong? True or false? Correct or wrong? I'll repeat the statement. Even the export-led growth strategy will not be helpful in addressing income inequalities in India. It's true, by the way. It's correct. It's a fact. It's a fact. Whether you're going to promote growth by promoting investments or by promoting exports, by promoting right everything in India, there are different ways to address income inequality. If you promote GDP by promoting export, that will not reduce necessarily. It will not reduce income inequality in India. Even after achieving high GDP growth rate through exports, there could be income inequality, there could be wealth inequality as well. That is actually what has happened in India. We're able to promote exports today, right? Lot of exports are done from India. We earn lot of money. It contributes greatly to GDP number, but that doesn't mean inequality has been addressed by having approach of export-led growth strategy. Right? So remember, these kind of statements can be asked in UPSC. Ninth five-year plan, 97 to 02. Ninth five-year plan, 97 to 02. Just factual information here. What is the importance of ninth five-year plan? It was announced in 50th year of independence. It was announced in 50th year of independence. Under the ninth five-year plan, government identified certain requirements of a house per household and called it as a basic minimum needs. For example, right, education, housing assistance, right, a nutritional support, the healthcare, water facility, etc. So they identified certain requirements of household and said these are the basic minimum needs, basic minimum requirements, services that are needed for a household. And government had a target of providing all these basic minimum services under the ninth five-year plan. But even today, please do let me know, don't you think even today government of India has schemes to promote access to drinking water facility in India? Yes or no? Have you come across a scheme, right? Have you come across a scheme where government of India even today for that matter, is promoting tap connections to rural households? Jal Jeevan Mission, Jal Jeevan Mission. I'm telling you this for a simple reason. Many of students, when you read it later, you will have this one doubt. You'll have one doubt. Sir, why are we seeing, right, let's say, eradication of poverty in multiple 5 years? Why are we seeing, right, providing education in multiple 5 years? Why are we seeing, right, many of these programs, many of these initiatives, or many of these targets in multiple 5 years? Is it that we were not able to achieve? Answer is yes. In only one 5-year plan, you will not be able to eradicate poverty. So multiple 5-year plans that will be present. In only one 5-year plan, you will not be able to provide education to all the population in India. It will be there in multiple 5-year plans. In only one 5-year plan, you will not be able to provide, right, let's say, healthcare to all the population in India, because as the time passes by, automatically the requirements will increase, right? Situation will change, and that's the reason, right, over a period of time it will be provided like this in multiple 5-year plans. Okay. So, eighth 5-year plan, ninth 5-year plan. Predominantly, the investment came from the private sector, both from the domestic private sector as well as foreign private sector. Plan also pursued focus on fiscal consolidation. In fact, the argument of FRBM, fiscal responsibility budget management, was discussed in the ninth 5-year plan. It was passed and implemented from the 10th 5-year plan. Accelerated growth with stable prices, right? That was also the theme of the ninth 5-year plan. Now, before I go to the 10th 5-year plan, I forgot to tell you one more point regarding 8th 5-year plan. Please remember this. 8th 5-year plan was the first plan to focus on universal elementary education. First plan to have universal elementary education. And apart from this, it also had a provision to eradicate, right, or promote literacy. Rather than right, eradicate, you can simply say promote literacy among the youth in the age group of 15 to 35 years. Right, eradicate illiteracy among the age group of 15 to 35 years. So focus was there in the 8th 5-year plan on education sector as well. Okay. So 8th 5-year plan, 9th 5-year plan, 10th 5-year plan. Only two more are left. Don't worry. 10, 11. 12th, although it was implemented, it was not implemented for full 5 years. It was cut short because of abolition of planning commission. So 10th 5-year plan at 8% GDP growth rate. We wanted to reduce poverty by 5 percentage points during this particular period of 10th 5-year plan from 2002 to 2007. We were also able to get FRBM Act passed and implemented FRBM 2003, because FRBM is being discussed multiple times now. Please be very, very careful. Right? We wanted to generate a lot of job opportunities at this point of time. This was also the duration when SEZ policy, Special Economic Zone policy, was implemented in India. We wanted to reduce literacy gaps, right? Gender literacy gaps which are existing. Gender literacy gaps means basically, basically, out of the total literate population in India, majority of the literates comes from male population. Female literacy rate was lower. So there is a gap, right? Gender gaps in literacy rate we want to reduce. Children should be sent to school by 2003. Right? Literacy rates target was 75%, etc. So these are certain provisions of 10th 5-year plan. Okay, certain important provisions of 10th 5-year plan. Okay, now last 11th 5-year plan. Before that, are there any doubts? Sir, we understand that LP was introduced in 1991, but in the 7th FIP itself, we saw good GDP. How is that? My dear, even before LPG was introduced, it's not that service sector began growing only because of LPG. Remember this. It's not that service sector began growing only in LPG reforms, or let's say from the 8th 5-year plan. Even before the introduction of 8th 5-year plan, that is basically through LPG reforms, we had very good growth rate in the services sector. That is point number one. Point number two, in the 7th 5-year plan itself, multiple reforms which you can call it as a liberalization reform. Many of the liberalization means what? Deregulation. Liberalization is nothing but deregulation. Many of the reforms which can be called as a deregulation reforms were introduced when Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister. So the focus on infrastructure, focus on promotion of imports and exports, focus on development of industries, right, liberalization measures, etc., or promotion of a service sector were done even before LPG reforms were implemented. LPG reforms were implemented for a simple reason: crisis. There was a crisis in the economy. That is the reason it becomes very, very famous. Okay. 11th 5-year plan, 2007 to 2012. The last 5-year plan, which was completely implemented by the government, completely in the sense for full 5 years. So the central theme of the 5-year plan, 11th 5-year plan, was faster and more inclusive growth, to promote faster and more inclusive growth. Now, before I go forward, many of you are asking, sir, what is inclusive growth? Earlier also one student was asking, what is inclusive growth? Inclusive growth refers to pace and pattern of growth. Inclusive growth refers to pace as well as pattern of growth. Now you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by pace and pattern of growth? I'm using the World Bank definition. This is a World Bank definition. World Bank says inclusive growth refers to pace and pattern of growth. Both are connected and both should be addressed together. What is the meaning of it? Please let me know. Is it just sufficient that India's GDP becomes a $5 trillion or $10 trillion for that matter? Very simple question. Is it sufficient to just ensure that India's GDP becomes 5 trillion, or it is equally important to ensure poverty will come down in India, employment will increase in India, right? The nutritional security will increase in India. So don't you think we should achieve both of them? Correct? All of you agree with me? We should achieve both of them. It's not just sufficient to increase the size of the GDP. It is equally important to ensure that the increasing the size of the cake. They in fact use the term pie, but I'll use the term cake. It is not just sufficient to increase the size of the cake. It is also equally important to ensure how much of the cake will reach to all the sections of the society. That is also equally important. Agreed? Anybody has a disagreement with me? It is not just sufficient to increase the size of the cake. It is equally important to ensure more and more part of the cake will reach to poor sections of the society. Because right now, most of the cake means incomes. Most of the cake goes to rich people. So it is not just sufficient to increase GDP size. It is equally important to ensure farmers will earn more. Poverty will come down. Child mortality rates will come down. Nutritional security will increase, etc. That is the pace as well as pattern of growth. There are two terms here, the growth and development. The growth and development. Most of you will be confused with these two terms. You will be confused with both of these two terms. Please understand, growth is a quantity. Growth is a quantitative concept. That is GDP. Simple. What is GDP? Market price of all the final goods and services produced. But what is development? Because of this growth, what is the benefit derived by the society? Because of this growth, what is the benefit derived by the society? Is the growth providing benefit to all the people or very few people? That is equally important. That is called as development. So now do let me know, is it okay if I say growth which is pro-poor, growth which will provide benefit to all the sections of the society, not very few people in the society, that we can call it as inclusive growth? Correct? That we can call it as an inclusive growth. So growth which will provide benefit to all, right? The benefits of the growth will be shared with all. Size of the cake increases, but benefits of increasing size of the cake will reach to all. That is called as inclusive growth. So pace and pattern of growth. Now tell me, can I say both the pace and pattern both are connected to each other? Yes or no? Both pace of growth as well as pattern of the growth, both are connected to each other. Can we focus only on one and ignore the other? No. That's the reason World Bank says, I'll repeat the definition. Inclusive growth refers to pace and pattern of the growth where both are connected to each other, both are interlinked, and both must be addressed together. Do not focus only on growth. Then you will not be sure whether the benefits are reaching to all. That is in fact what was tried by the government of India in the first 2 5-year plans. Focus on growth, focus on growth, focus on growth, will experience trickle down. We did not experience it. That is the reason suddenly government of India changed the policy and said, okay, let's focus on welfare also now. Let's ensure that expenditure is done for reducing regional inequalities. Let's ensure that, right, we are going to have 20-point programs. We are going to elevate poverty, etc. So that's the basic idea of inclusive growth. Now, whether India has achieved or not, we'll discuss that day after tomorrow. Have patience. They provided a comprehensive strategy to promote growth as well as a development. We wanted to promote education sector as well as skilling in India. Multiple skilling initiatives have been implemented over a period of time. We wanted to reduce gender inequalities, provide clean drinking water by 2009. We have not been able to achieve that. That's a different issue. Targets were set up, right? Targets were set up for various sectors such as agriculture, GDP, etc., etc. Okay, so these are certain important points of the 11th 5-year plan. Last 5-year plan, 12th 5-year plan. After that, no more factual information, right? Congratulations, you have been able to sustain, right, so far. So last 5-year plan, 12th 5-year plan. What are the important points? Again, the focus was on inclusive growth. Again, the focus was on inclusive growth. Faster, sustainable, and more inclusive growth. Earlier, it was just inclusive growth, right? That is towards a faster and more inclusive growth. Now, the government of India said, we will promote inclusive growth and will sustain this policy of promotion of inclusive growth for a longer duration. Faster, sustainable, and more inclusive growth. Under the 12th 5-year plan, right, we had 25 targets. Right? 25 areas were identified. We set up targets under all the 25 areas. Should you remember all of it? Not at all needed. Remember most important ones: agriculture, industry, GDP, etc. So real GDP growth rate, we wanted to achieve 8%. Real agriculture growth rate, right? That is growth rate in the agriculture sector should be at 4%. Industrial, that is manufacturing sector, should grow at 10%. Poverty rates should come down by 10%. New opportunities of 5 crore numbers, that is new job opportunities. How many? 5 crore opportunities should be created. So basically we had 25 targets. Again, we have not implemented 12th 5-year plan completely. Reason being, in 2015, we abolished planning commission. In 2015, we abolished planning commission. We do not have a planning commission after that. So the authority which was responsible for implementation has been abolished. Hence, there is no 5-year plan after the 12th 5-year plan. So these are all the 12 5-year plans that I want you to go through again. I know a lot of factual information. Many of you would be scratching your head. How do I remember all of it, etc. You don't have to remember all the 60 plus points that are there in each of the slides put together. If you can remember, let's say important points, around 30 points, which are specifically associated with certain 5-year plans, more than sufficient. More than sufficient as far as I'm concerned for UPSC. Okay, right? So now after 12 5-year plans, after more than 60 plus years of implementation of 12 5-year plans, what is the evaluation? What has been the performance of the planning situation, planning policy of Government of India? Let's look at the achievements as well as the limitations of 5-year plans. Point number one, we have been able to achieve higher GDP growth rate, right? And all of these are factual information. Do not contest it. These are correct, by the way. We have been able to increase, right, the GDP growth rate. That is, in fact, earlier, even before 1990 policy was implemented or 1991 LPG policy was implemented, it is said that the average growth rate of India for the first 6 5-year plans was 3.4%. The average growth rate was around 3.4%. After the LPG reforms have been implemented, our GDP growth rate has actually increased. For many of these years, we have been able to hit 5%, 6%, etc. Recently, because of internal as well as external events such as pandemic, no doubt, there has been an impact on the GDP, but that is an exceptional year. That duration is an exception. It's not a norm in India. It's not that every year we are going to achieve a 2% or 1%, 1.5%. If I've been reading newspaper, this year itself, our target is more than 7% GDP growth rate. So yes, because of the policies implemented by the government under 5-year plans, our GDP, right, has expanded. GDP growth rate also has been very healthy. Second, what about per capita income? Per capita income also has improved over a period of time. In fact, as per Niti Aayog survey, the per capita income has increased by more than 200% after the implementation of LPG reforms compared to the growth in the per capita income before the LPG reforms. Let me tell you what is the meaning of the statement. If you basically plot what was the change of per capita income between 1950 to 1990, before LPG reforms, between 1950 to 1990, what was the growth in the per capita income? If you find it out, from 1991 to 2011 and 12, now if you compare that with the growth in the per capita incomes, the growth after LPG reforms has been very, very high. And the Niti Aayog survey itself says the growth in the per capita incomes here compared to this per capita income is 200%. So per capita incomes also have improved. Agriculture sector, we were import dependent before LPG reforms, or let's say even before the independence. Even after certain years for after independence, we were import dependent agriculture sector. Today, we are a surplus sector. We are a surplus production in the agriculture sector. But please do let me know. I'll ask you two very important questions. Even with having a surplus production in agriculture sector, do we have nutritional security in India? I'll repeat my question. Please be very, very careful. These are the kind of questions UPSC will ask. Even with surplus production means the amount of production we are doing in agriculture, it is not just sufficient. It is more than sufficient to take care of domestic demand. We are exporting. We have so much food grain. But even after that, don't you agree when I say there is no nutritional security in India? In fact, let me elaborate this point and say even NFSA will not provide nutritional security to people. Correct? Even NFSA, Government of India has extended NFSA. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, it has been extended till 2028. Now tell me, even the extension of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, will it provide nutritional security? Absolutely no. It will not provide nutritional security. We basically provide cereals, we provide rice, we provide wheat, but people want pulses, protein, simple, right? People want fats. We are not providing that kind of a nutritional security under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana. Now, don't you think you have got one point when you're writing about the expansion of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana? There is one point of concern that you can write, one point of way forward that you can write. Now let me connect it to current affairs. Sir, why should we discuss all of it? Why should I remember so many things? Let me connect it to current affairs. Last week, one of the articles I gave you was regarding concerns regarding MSP. Correct? Last week, Indian Express. Please check it. I've given it. I know. I purposely gave it to you. Right? There was one article. In fact, there were two parts to that article. Right? Indian Express. It was regarding concerns of MSP. What they said was basically this. That is, we are giving more MSP for cereal. We are procuring more for more of a cereals under the public distribution system. Hence, right, the production of other crops are getting affected. We are becoming more import dependent on pulses, oil seeds, and we are producing more of, right, let's say water guzzling crops, etc. So think of all these points. Can you connect all these dots and write a very, very comprehensive, very good answer if at all there's a question on food security in India? For example, I'll just throw a question at you. Just write extemper question. In India, though there is a food security, there is no nutritional security. Elaborate 150 or 250 words. Possible? I will repeat the question again. I'll repeat the question again. Right? In India, though there is a food security, we have failed in providing nutritional security. Elaborate in 250 words. Right? So if saying, no, sir, this is not possible. My dear, possible or not? I'm not saying guaranteed. Possible or not possible? Definitely possible. Many of you will keep on thinking, what does he mean by food security and nutritional security? How can you connect it to current affairs? How can you connect it to MSP? Or else can we also say one more question like this? The policy of MSP has been helpful in providing or in achieving food security, but it has implications on nutrition security in India. Correct? Elaborate. Can they give a question like this? The policy of MSP has helped India in achieving food security, but has implications over nutritional security in India. Right? Yeah, definitely, yes. These kind of questions can be asked by UPSC. Slightly technical, but once you understand, if you read those articles and then understand, these kind of questions are very, very easy for you. Okay? Right. So anyways, come back to this. Higher industrial growth rate, GDP growth rate, agriculture sector has been performing very well in India. We have become a surplus country now. We have become a surplus country from a deficit country, right? And finally, the percentage of BPL simply means poor people. BPL is below poverty line. How much of the total population can be classified as poor is called as BPL, below poverty line. So percentage BPL population has in fact reduced in India. These are the achievements of planning. But where have we failed? Even with the 60 plus years of planning, where did we fail? Point number one, we have failed in order to control population in India. We have failed. We have implemented family planning programs, 4th 5-year plan. From the 4th 5-year plan, we have been implementing family planning, but we have failed to control the explosion of population in India. Right? Rather than saying growth, it has been an explosion of growth of population in India. And some of you might be thinking, sir, what is the problem? Let the population grow. What is your issue with that? My dear, if the population grows, don't you think there is a burden on infrastructure in India? Correct or wrong? If population grows, there's a burden on agriculture sector, food security burden for the government will increase. Right? Many of the experts say, sir, if the population increases, that will contribute to worker population in India. But tell me, is there a concern regarding demography of India, which is presently there, which is an advantage for us? Is there a concern regarding this? There's a discussion demographic dividend for India can become demographic disaster. Remember the statement. Demographic dividend for India might become a demographic disaster. Why? Demographic dividend means because we have so much population which is part of working age group, 15 to 59 years. We have very high population which is part of the working age group. We can harness this population and produce more, increase productivity. But what if the skilled labor availability is very less? What if investments are capital intensive? So tell me, if skilled labor availability is lesser, if investments are capital intensive, does it mean employment growth rate will be very high for India? Think logically. You'll be able to create more and more jobs for the people. No. But population is very high. Don't you think today's working population will become old aged population after 30 years, after 40 years? If we do not provide sufficient jobs today, they will not have sufficient savings. Their dependence on the government after they become 60 plus years will increase. So can you imagine to what extent government has to provide food security after 30 plus years if we do not provide job security today? What kind of healthcare assistance government of India has to provide after 30 years if we do not provide right quality jobs today? So I hope you understand when I say, right, when I use a statement, there's a danger that demographic dividend can become a demographic disaster for government of India. All of you will agree with me? Is there any a counter argument to what I'm telling? Anybody is disagreeing with me? Please do let me know. I am saying it is a possibility. I'm not saying it is happening. Don't say, sir, you are anti-India, etc. I'm saying these are the arguments which are happening. You be aware of it. You please be aware of it. Okay. So what are the areas where we have failed? One, we have not been able to control population explosion in India. Second, we have not been able to implement land reforms effectively in India. That is one of the biggest failures. In fact, the first 5-year plan, in the first 5-year plan, there was argument, there was a provision for land reforms. We promoted land reforms in India. For example, all of you please go to your history classes. Abolition of zamindari system. Correct? Zamindari system was introduced during British government. But after independence, 1952, we brought in a law to abolish zamindari system. Argument was simple. The person who will cultivate should be the owner of the land. Very simple argument. Right? We wanted to ensure that because lot of population was dependent on agriculture sector, contribution to GDP was very high, but incomes were very low. We wanted to ensure security, safety will be provided to the population who is cultivating on the land. So we implemented land reforms. Multiple land reforms were implemented, but not very successfully implemented in India. Right? So the land reforms implementation has been very haphazard, unsatisfactory in India. So population growth not controlled, land reforms not successfully implemented. We have reduced the percentage of population of poor people. But does it mean the number of poor people has come down in India? I'll repeat the statement. Right? Repeat the statement. Think of it. Very interesting, by the way. We have reduced the percentage of people who can be called poor in India. But does it mean number of poor people have come down in India? Absolutely no. Let me prove it to you. Let me prove it with a very simple CSAT number. Imagine out of 100 people, 8 people can be classified as poor. Now, I'll simply say 8% is the BPL population. 8% is the BPL population. Now, from 100 people, population will balloon to 1,000 people. Right? From 8 people, population will balloon to 1,000 people. And from 8 people, now poor people, the number will balloon to 40%. So please do let me know. Start using your calculators now. Is it okay if I say percentage of population which can be classified as poor has come down, but the number of people who are classified as poor is increased? All of you will understand my argument here. So historically, and whenever governments will speak, every government for that matter, whenever governments will speak, they'll always talk in terms of percentages. Right? The percentage of population which is classified as poor has come down, but that doesn't necessarily mean number of poor people in India have come down. Number of poor people could have increased also. Then some of will ask, how is that percentage will come down? Base will increase. Very simple, numerator, denominator. The denominator is increasing at a much faster pace compared to numerator. And that is a precise reason why percentage will be lower. Right? So, failure to implement land reforms, right? Higher population, the employment growth rate is very slow in India, right? We are seeing jobless growth phenomenon, which we'll discuss tomorrow. Don't worry. One size fits all approach. I told you earlier, planning commission brought certain schemes and they wanted all the states to implement these schemes. But the states argued, why should we implement all these schemes? You want me to spend money, because I hope you understand, centrally sponsored schemes. Let's say 50% is spent by the center, 50% is spent by me. I'm a state government. But I am of the opinion that this scheme doesn't have applicability in my state. Or you want me to implement scheme, I want to make certain changes. You are not allowing me. So one size fits all approach was followed by the government, which was criticized by many states. Planning commission did not have representation of the states. States play a very important role in implementation, and they were not present in an institute where plans are prepared. Right? So no structural mechanism for engagement with the states. One size fits all approach. GDP contribution is uneven. Skewed means uneven. Right? Agriculture sector accounts for 47 to 49% of working population. Contribution is 16%. Service sector accounts for 1/4 of working population. Contribution is more than 50%. So contribution from regions, contribution from sectors was uneven, right? Was skewed, uneven. These are some of the failures or some of the areas where planning concept as a concept has actually failed in India. So what is the verdict? Right? What should be a conclusion? Is planning a success? Is planning a failure in India? We have achieved progress in certain sectors, but in other areas, there is a lag of performance. There is a lag of success. Right? Why we have not been able to achieve success in all the areas that we have targeted? Right? Because corruption was on a higher level. Right? Many of you say, sir, how can you say corruption was higher level? Subsidies. Very simple. Subsidies. Earlier, subsidies were provided for poor people. Lot of these subsidies were taken up by the middlemen. Right? The schemes did not reach the intended beneficiaries. Investment institutes were lower in India. Right? The institutes which could provide a long-term loan, bigger loans, etc. We were lagging behind in terms of those financial institutes, etc. So investments were lower. Availability of skilled labor was very less. Import dependence was very high. Specialized lending institutions were lagging behind in India, etc. These are some of the reasons why planning as a concept has not been very successful in Indian economy. Done, all of you okay? So this is basically the idea of a planning, 5-year plans, planning commission, National Development Council, the long-term goals of planning commission. Why did we do that? What did we do under each of the 5-year plan? Right? What has happened in different 5-year plans? What is the overall experience of India in terms of planning? All of you okay? Can we go forward now? Niti Aayog. Next concept is Niti Aayog. Now, what does Niti Aayog stand for? Niti Aayog stands for National Institute for Transforming India. NITI. National Institute for Transforming India. Niti Aayog. Government of India in 2015 abolished Planning Commission and instead of Planning Commission introduced one more authority, set up one more authority. And again, please understand, even Niti Aayog was established through executive authority of the government. Niti Aayog is not a constitutional body. Please remember this. There is no provision in the Constitution of India to set up Niti Aayog. No. Niti Aayog was also established through executive resolution of the government. That is through executive authority in 2015. Now, what is the composition of Niti Aayog? This is where Niti Aayog is different compared to Planning Commission. Please make an observation now. Niti Aayog has a very, right, let's say a two-level structure, right, where every state government is present. Every state government or union territories has their representation. There are two very important parts to Niti Aayog. One is a full-time organization. Second one is a governing council. One is a full-time organization. Second one is a governing council. And please do let me know, those who are reading newspapers in the last 4 to 5 months, was the Niti Aayog's governing council in discussion? Let me see. Let me see how many of you reading newspapers. Was the Niti Aayog's governing council in discussion in current affairs? And many of you have become dormant now. Please participate. Last 15 minutes. Last 15 minutes. We'll wind up the discussion. Don't worry. Right? I'll tell you the context also. Some of the state government representatives, some of the union territories representatives opposed the participation in governing council of Niti Aayog. Check it. Check it in the current affairs, you will realize it. Again, it was not there in last 1 month. I know that because last 1 month I've been taking classes for you. If it was there, I would have told you to read it. So I believe in the last 4 to 5 months, there was a discussion regarding governing council of Niti Aayog. The representatives of various state governments as well as union territories, they were opposed to certain policies of the union government and they did not participate. They opposed the meeting of the governing council. So that is the reason suddenly UPSC can ask you this. Please be very careful. So, and some of you are asking, is it statutory body? My dear, whenever you read, and I believe polity is already over for you. Whenever you talk about bodies, that is institutions, you can have generally three types. One is a constitutional body. Correct? One is a constitutional body. What do you mean by constitutional body? There is a provision in the Constitution of India. For example, Supreme Court of India, Election Commission of India. Are you reading about Election Commission? Please be very careful. Again, don't ask me about Election Commission. I'm teaching economics. Election Commission of India, or come to economics, GST Council, Finance Commission. Correct? Right? There are also statutory bodies. There are also statutory bodies. What do you mean by statutory bodies? Government will introduce a bill, make it an act, pass it, make it an act. Under that, we will have an authority, statutory authorities. Right? For example, Right to Information Act. Under Right to Information Act, we have an authority, statutory body. Right? And the third one is right, basically through executive resolution. Basically through executive resolution. That is, government through its order, through the order, will set up an authority. Right? Executive authority. Planning Commission, National Development Council, Niti Aayog, these are the examples of authorities set up through executive resolution of the government. So Niti Aayog is also third type. Niti Aayog is also third type. So we have a full-time organization, we have a governing council. The chairperson, either a full-time organization, governing council, is always the Prime Minister. So Prime Minister is the chairperson or the chairman of Niti Aayog. Now, in the full-time organization, we have right, the chairperson, who is the Prime Minister. Along with chairperson, we have vice chairperson, we have CEO, we have experts who are appointed as a part of full-time organization. But apart from this, we also have governing councils, where the Prime Minister is again the chairperson. Along with the Prime Minister, there is a representation of the states as well as the union territories. There is a representation of the states as well as union territories. Okay. So full-time organization as well as governing council. These are the two very important pillars. Apart from this, there are multiple parts in Niti Aayog. The two very important pillars of Niti Aayog are a full-time organization as well as governing council. Now, what are the objectives of Niti Aayog? All the given points, right, directly taken from the document. Let me simplify them. Listen to the points very carefully. Right? I'm trying to make it easier for you. You can by heart it. I don't have any doubt. You can by heart it. But I want you to remember it easily, because it is easier to recollect later. Now, what are the objectives of Niti Aayog? Point number one, Government of India will allocate a certain work to Niti Aayog. For example, Government of India will ask Niti Aayog, please study about National Food Security Act. Give me recommendation. Right? So whenever government will refer certain subject to Niti Aayog, it will study and give recommendation to government. That is the first one. Second one, even if government has not allocated the subject, the Niti Aayog on its own can take up certain subjects which are important in terms of national security, which are important to promote growth, welfare, etc. They can take up certain subjects on their own, study and advise government of India. Second one. Third one, Niti Aayog says there are certain sections of the society. There are certain sections of the society which are not getting the benefit of growth in India, which are getting excluded from getting the benefit of the growth. So what Niti Aayog says is, I will formulate certain measures, give recommendation to government of India, ensure that whatever is the benefit, whatever is the growth will also benefit these excluded societies, excluded people. That is the third one. Fourth one, earlier planning commission created a plan, then asked states to implement the plan. Correct? Earlier planning commission created a plan, then asked the states to implement the plan. We followed top to bottom approach. We followed a top to bottom approach. But Niti Aayog says, no, we will not follow this concept now. Now a new policy has to be implemented. A new project has to be implemented. New scheme has to be implemented. First, we will prepare a plan at the lowest level. That is at the village level. We will implement it. Then we'll try to extrapolate. We'll try to extend the application to state. Then we'll try to extend the program to whole of India. All of you are able to understand? Earlier planning commission followed top to bottom approach. They prepared a plan, told the states to implement it. Now Niti Aayog says, no, we will not do that. Rather, we will create a mechanism. We'll create a mechanism where we are going to implement it first at the village level. Then we are going to extend the application to higher levels over a period of time. Bottom up approach. Niti Aayog follows bottom up approach. Right. Next one, the strategic as well as a long-term policy and program frameworks should be formulated by Niti Aayog, recommended by Niti Aayog, and what is their progress? What is the progress of these recommendations that have been given, advices that have been given when they are implemented by the government will be followed up, will be evaluated by Niti Aayog. For example, please remember this. Under Niti Aayog, there is one office. I'll come back to this. Just give me a minute. Under Niti Aayog, there is one office, DMEO, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office. DMEO, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office. What is the role of this Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office? The central government has multiple ministries. These ministries have implemented multiple schemes. What is the progress of the schemes? There should be some evaluation. How the funds are utilized, there should be some evaluation. So Niti Aayog's Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office will keep a track, will keep on evaluating all these progress done by different ministries. Right? So recommendations have been provided, advice have been provided. Now what is the efficiency of it? Are these being implemented? How much is the funding provided? How the funding is being utilized, etc. All of that also comes under the objectives. And finally, to promote cooperative federalism between center and states. To promote cooperative federalism between center and states. Now, what do you mean by cooperative federalism? Generally, there are two terms that will come across. One is called as cooperative federalism. Second one is called as competitive federalism. And Niti Aayog is involved in both of it. Niti Aayog promotes both of it, cooperative as well as competitive. Now, what is cooperative federalism? Whenever both the center and the state will come together, both the center and the state coming together for effective implementation of a policy. I'll give you example also. I'll repeat the statement. What do you mean by cooperative federalism? Center and the states coming together for effective implementation of the policy. It is called as a cooperative federalism. Can I say GST Council is an example of cooperative federalism? Think of it and do let me know. GST Council is an example of cooperative federalism. What about Niti Aayog? Both the center and states are coming together to formulate policies, etc. That is also example of cooperative federalism. So one of the objectives is to promote cooperative federalism. Now, what is competitive federalism? To promote competition between the states. To promote competition between the states. Sir, how will Niti Aayog promote competition between the states? For example, Niti Aayog publishes one ranking. I'm taking one example. One ranking called as Export Preparedness Index, EPI. Niti Aayog publishes one ranking called as Export Preparedness Index. Now, if you are an investor, please think of it. If you are an investor, you look at the ranking and automatically you'll be interested to invest in a state which has got very good ranking. All of you agree with me? I'll repeat it. If you're an investor, you want to promote right production as well as export. So automatically you look at the ranking and say, okay, Gujarat is a top ranked. You'll say Maharashtra has got very good ranking under the export preparedness index. So don't you think automatically your investments will start flowing into the states which are doing very well in these indices? So now there is a competition between the states. Every state wants to attract a lot of investment in order to develop infrastructure, in order to promote production, in order to promote exports. Now they know that if I have a very good ranking, I'll be able to attract investment. So there is a competition, healthy competition between the states. At competitive federalism, Niti Aayog promotes cooperative as well as competitive federalism. Okay. Lastly, before I wind up for today, what is the comparison between Niti Aayog and Planning Commission? Please have a look at it. This is what you will find. Niti Aayog follows bottom to top approach. Planning Commission followed top to bottom approach. Planning Commission did not have any representation of the states. Niti Aayog has governing council where there is representation of the states. Planning Commission used to allocate funds to the states. For the implementation of 5-year plans, Planning Commission had the power to allocate funds to the states. Financial powers were there. Niti Aayog does not allocate any funding. Every power of funding has been given to central government now. Niti Aayog does not allocate any funds to the states. Planning Commission was an authority, a policy making authority with financial powers. Niti Aayog is simply an advisory authority. That's it. It is simply an advisory and monitoring authority. It doesn't do anything beyond this. It is advisory and monitoring authority. Okay. These are the points of comparison. This was in fact asked by UPSC. It was asked by UPSC in the mains examination. These are certain important points comparing what is the difference between, or basically comparing between Planning Commission as well as Niti Aayog. Now, before I wind up, this is where I'll stop today. Tomorrow we'll start from here. Tomorrow we'll start from importance of Niti Aayog, right? We'll discuss importance of Niti Aayog, what are the concerns regarding functioning of Niti Aayog, etc. Right? We'll discuss that. That will be the end of planning. And tomorrow itself, we'll take up infrastructure. Certain parts of infrastructure we are yet to cover. For example, airports, roadways, waterways. We have not yet covered them. Tomorrow we will cover all of this. Right? So we'll complete planning, we'll take up infrastructure, and I'm pretty sure tomorrow itself we'll start with employment as well. So that's it from my side. If there are any doubts, any concerns regarding what we have discussed today, please do let me know. Otherwise, we can stop the discussion. Sir, was there any need to abolish Planning Commission and establish Niti Aayog? Can't Planning Commission itself be reformed to make it better? Definitely yes, right? Definitely yes. There was this criticism. Sir, it was just a executive authority. Planning Commission was an executive authority. It's not a constitutional authority. What was the need to abolish Planning Commission? Can't we simply rename it? Can't we simply change the functions of Planning Commission? Of course, yes. Of course, yes, right? It can be done. But you know how the governments function. Once the government will change, right, and the new government will have their own strategy, will have their own policies. In fact, there was one very funny statement. Again, don't write this in the exam. There was one funny statement when the government abolished Planning Commission and set up Niti Aayog. Both are executive authorities, by the way. The statement was, the color of the cat does not matter as long as it catches mice. I'll repeat the statement. You understand what does it mean, and don't write this in the exam. The color of the cat does not matter as long as it catches mice. Whether you call it as a Niti Aayog, whether you call it as planning commission, does not matter. What are the functions? Right? You change the functions, that's it. Right? So again, right? So that is the reason there was a criticism. But please understand, it is entirely the prerogative of the government. You cannot simply tell the government, don't change the name. It is the prerogative of the government. They can change the name. Okay. Okay. Sir, very heavy lecture with lot of actual data. Yes, I know. I've told you this. I'll only be honest. Lot of actual information I've given, I've thrown at you people. But do not by heart everything, anything and everything that I've discussed. What are the important points? I've marked them. Please remember those. As far as I'm concerned, it should be more than sufficient. Planning Commission has ended. Yes, 2015 we have abolished Planning Commission. We have abolished Planning Commission. We have set up a new authority, Niti Aayog. Sir, tomorrow class is the last class for economy? No. As far as I'm concerned, today is 22nd class. Tomorrow is 23rd. And Wednesday will be my last class. 24th. 24th class. Again, when I say 24th, not the date. 24th class. Wednesday is the last class. Okay? Okay. Sir, why do you think, sir, what do you think is Planning Commission is a better performing asset or Niti Aayog? Please understand, both the functions are different. The functions of both of these organizations are different. Planning Commission used to formulate plans, right? So when you want to compare Niti Aayog and Planning Commission, right, both the functions are different. You cannot make a comparison. It's like comparing, let's say, apples with oranges. Both are different. Okay. So why economics teeth breaking tougher than other subjects? My dear, you feel economics is difficult for a very simple reason. One, it is a technical subject. First one. Second one, you do not revise. Right? You do not revise. Right? And third one, you don't want to read newspapers. And fourth one, you want to score very good marks in economics. Right? Now look at your objectives. Don't you think they are contradicting with each other? All of you will agree. They are contradicting with each other. You want to score very good marks, but you don't want to revise. You feel economics is like any other subject. And again, I'm not putting any other subject down. I'm not saying others are easy. Economics is very technical, very important, etc. Right? Basically, the argument is it's a technical subject. It's a technical subject. Unlike, let's say, any other subject, which is more of, let's say, information based. Right? Information based subjects. Right? Whether this is there, this is not there. That's it. But in economics, no. There are so many, right? Let's say points. There are so many cogs in the economy. If one cog is basically a wheel. If one cog starts rotating, automatically other cogs will also start rotating. It may not be so in other subjects. So that's a reason. Revise it, update with current affairs. Over a period of time, it will become very easy and you'll start enjoying economics. Trust me, you'll start enjoying economics once you start understanding what is actually happening. But for that, right, homework. Read, revise. Okay. Sir, all chapters that you have done in class, that all are given more detail in books. So should we read such detail or enough to read that you taught? I've already told you this. I'll repeat it again. You do not have to read completely regarding whatever I've discussed in the classroom. What is required for you? You should be able to write answers in UPSC, solve prelims as well as have data for mains. So whatever I've discussed, right, that's as far as I'm concerned more than sufficient. What I would recommend is update with current affairs. Many of you keep on running behind books. I don't know what the reason is, but many of you keep on running behind a book. My recommendation, book can teach you only to a certain extent. That's it. If you don't trust me, do me a favor. Please do me a favor. And in fact, that will be a favor to yourself. Look at last 2 years mains question paper on Indian economy, GS paper 3. I'll repeat the statement. Please look at last 2 years GS paper 3 Indian economy questions. And tomorrow you tell me, will you be able to answer those questions reading current affairs or will you be able to answer those questions reading only books? Hardly 1 or 2 questions every year, hardly 1 question every year is purely from a book. Rest of the questions will be from current affairs. You take it granted from me. You don't trust me, you refer to them today and you tell me, sir, what you said is wrong. Sir, what you said is correct. You tell me. Okay. Okay, any other question? Any other question? Done then. So let me stop the discussion today here. Let me stop the discussion. Tomorrow we'll start again. Tomorrow we'll start again exactly at 6 a.m. Okay. So take care. We will meet again tomorrow at 6 a.m. Okay. Bye.